You're never alone. Whenever it's gone, let the shadows take hold. You're never alone. Let the poison in.
Hello, everyone, and good evening. Welcome here to Style Esports on this wonderful Wednesday night. And I am Necrox on the desk. Joining me is the one and only Thousand Eyes as we get ready to bring you the action between Syndicate and Shadow Mustangs Unleashed as the draft phase has begun up. I'm curious your thoughts on where we're headed tonight, and maybe even some cheeky early on predictions between these two teams.
Yeah, so I am very excited because we have a couple of players that are very strong players, but are kind of one tricks, which makes the pick and ban phase pretty interesting. Already, we're seeing the Malzahar, Olaf, and the Graves being taken, Syndicate taking those off the board, and the Yorick Udyr taken down right now. I'm kind of surprised because I have seen Corando play like basically just Swain and Galio. And yeah, there we go. So there is the the Swain being taken away. Seraphine still left up, so not surprised to see that. I'm expecting there to be a Galio pick as well in the next rotation. SMU on the other hand, though, you're seeing you're probably going to be looking for. You've got, I don't know, Tom Kench, the uh probably the Annie is up there for Merlin as well. Kaisa is one of the strongest 80 carries right now, so not surprised to see her getting picked up uh, right off the bat here.
Yeah, and getting those powerful champions under your belt can always add that ability to make plays, to push your advantages in these games. Champions like Seraphine and Kaisa, who have been so incredibly impactful in the current meta. One that has not been super impactful, though, and has not been seen widely across Summoner's Rift, is the Demacian Keeper of Jarvan 4. Great engage, good ultimate with a Cataclysm to lock up these flashless and immobile targets like the Seraphine, but just really hasn't been striving as much as we used to. But we are, I believe, on still 11-3. 11-4 has not come out yet, so I'm curious why SMU are picking up this Jarvan so early in the draft.
I think part of it is when the jungle is kind of up in the air or when a lot of the power picks are taken off the board. Jarvan is a standard fallback that is always at least okay. He's the Oriana of the jungle, and he always just kind of works. He works in a lot of different compositions, and it's not surprising to see him being picked up here. He does kind of lack the clear speed that you see from other junglers that are more popular in the meta right now, like the Lilia that Syndicate has taken. So that is part of why you don't see him kind of picked up too much. But he does bring a much stronger early game ganking pressure, and that will allow SMU to kind of get this tempo going, and possibly, they can look to pick up an aggressive lane that J4 can play around and then make some things happen.
Yeah, and then there you go. If you want an aggressive lane, you've got it. Ewok on the Gragas in the top lane. The man is an absolute beast with the belly and can make plays happen for his team. Shadow Mustangs Unleashed, when they get their hands on this barrel casting Gragas, they always look to make Ewok the star of this squad. Along with it, though, Syndicate gonna pick up that global pressure in order to respond. They're going to grab themselves the Galio for Corando, as you mentioned. Makes a lot of sense. He's really got two champs under his belt, or at least two main champions. It is that Swain and Galio. At least he'll get one of them tonight.
Yeah, and the last time that I saw Corando's Galio, we thought like, oh, okay, he popped off on Swain the game before, and he got the Galio this time, so it's a little bit less, of a solo carry kind of show. No, Corando was just kind of all over the map doing whatever the hell he wanted to. But with the Gragas, though, I'm really excited to see the Gragas because it is like it is the major damage champion that Ewok plays, and it is the top champion that Ewok plays. This is the AP Gragas, unless they pull something weird out. Ewok plays almost exclusively the AP Gragas and blows people up in that top lane there. So Syndicate's going to have to pull something out that can actually play up against it. And Pure Salt already has the York taken away, which is the best. Oh, that is a mid lane Garen. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. So we were talking about it before we went live on air, and we were all right. Let's look
Yeah.
at what Merlin plays. We know he plays Annie. We know he does that all the
Seraphine.
time. Malzahar is fine as well. Can play
Yeah.
Seraphine. And you look at his solo queue, and he plays a lot of Garen mid with Ignite. And he's gonna do it tonight. He's not gonna be shy. We'll whip this one out on Style Esports. Show us how to spin to win. Speaking of spin to win, though, we got the Monkey Club joining in. Syndicate gonna grab the Cyclone here in the top lane. Rel with that big Magnet Storm on top. So SMU, final pick of the draft here. I think we're gonna have an extremely bloody game on Summoner's Rift if you just look at how these team compositions are built. Final pick, though, for SMU to round out their composition.
Right. So there is the off chance that the Gragas is a support pick and they baited it out. I don't think that's the case. I think it's Ewok's champion and that's who's going to be playing it. But yeah, so it is a Seraphine carry in the bot lane there. Karma being taken here. So yeah, that is going to be the support Karma. And the Gragas will be up in that top lane. Garen up against the Galio in the mid lane here. I don't entirely know how this matchup works out. I believe that is Garen favored, but Galio does enjoy going up against other melee type champions. So I want to give the edge there. Garen's early damage is a lot more impressive than people give it credit for. And then on that bottom side now, you've got the Rel Seraphine. That is a really obnoxious combo come level 6. And between Kaisa and Karma, there's not a whole lot of ability to avoid that or disengage from it once it starts. So bot lane is going to look really, really hairy with that Rel Seraphine, the Galio coming on top. There's a lot of wombo combo potential once that bot lane starts getting online.
Yeah, once the summoners are burned as well, there's no way to disengage out of the Rel Seraphine combination. Kaisa can use the supercharger along with a little bit of the Karma speed to get out of the Magnet Storm. But the hard CC is really the worry here for SMU's bot lane. The Encore, the stun with the Attract and Repel, the Ferromancy Crashdown. Syndicate has so much of it that can layer on top in this bot lane that once they get their ultimates and once they get this Galio moving towards the bot side of the map, that's really when SMU need to be careful. If you are Slick Drake and 13 Green Ninjas, you do have a little bit of advantage here. You do have a double ranged matchup, but post 6, definitely things to worry about. Bot lane going to be a point of interest for Syndicate at least. But that Garen Galio matchup, I tried to do a little bit of research as you were talking, and apparently it's 50-50. So Correndo and Merlin going to just show us who is the greater summoner tonight. It's supposed to be a relatively even matchup. I can imagine it going either way. The silence is going to be an important part of the matchup, but certainly an interesting one to watch in mid.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is going to come down to who is more comfortable on the champion, and even specifically in this matchup, I don't know how much experience Correndo has going up against a Garen as Galio. That's not usually a matchup that you see a lot of. Merlin might have a little more experience on that, but Correndo is very much more experienced on the Galio itself. So it's a little bit of a weird zone here. I'm actually going to be looking at this top lane here because to me, it is a major mismatch here. Pure Salt basically is just a Yorick player. Looking at his match history, it is 34 games of Yorick. The next highest is Jax at 6. And the Wukong itself has been played 4 times and has not won once. So
Yeah.
I am keeping an eye on this top lane. And if Ewok is given an opportunity, whether it be through jungle intervention helping him or forcing jungle intervention towards the bot side and keeping Xavian up there, that is going to be a huge pinpoint for both teams, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, Ewok's on this Gragas. The last time, at least, I got to see it play inside Esports, he took over the game. From level 2, he was zoning off his enemy top laner away from the wave, denying CS, maybe even denying EXP, forced the jungler to come up, 2v1'd in the top lane, and then just one-shot everyone with the full AP Gragas build. So Ewok, if he gets ahead, it feels disastrous for Syndicate. They really only have the Rel that can build a lot of resistances into that Gragas. But outside of that, Galio isn't going to want to build too much MR this game. Can opt for a little bit of a tankier build because the rest of his team does have enough ability power outside. But certainly SMU looking to make Ewok look massive here on this Gragas. Pure Salt, while he doesn't play a lot of Wukong, the champion in and of itself isn't too good into Gragas either. You have an armor passive into an AP champion, which typically doesn't favor the matchup.
Yeah, it is not an ideal matchup that you want to see there. And like we mentioned before, with Pure Assault not having the most experience on the champion, it's looking not great. But jungle intervention does play a part here. We talked about how Jarvan, not the fastest clearer, so Lilia can get up to that top side a little quicker despite having the weaker gank potential. But I think the biggest thing here is Wokian going to be able to create pressure that Zaven has to then respond to? Or is Zaven going to be given the opportunity to farm, show up in these team fights, and then kind of get a big sleep off? There's a lot of AoE ultimates on the side of Syndicate. And that is really just like, it's scary. Objective fights are absolutely going to work out better for Syndicate because of how many just go buttons they really have. So that is kind of, for as a team composition standpoint, that is the big thing that I'm looking for. Whereas it's kind of lane kingdom for SMU here. They've got like a lot of opportunities to win lane. Seraph Rel, not the strongest laning support, but like just has, a lot of disengage pressure, and Seraphine dies if you look at her wrong. They need to get ahead early, and they need to keep making picks in order to beat out Syndicate.
Yeah, I mean, as casters, we often like to look at how many circle ultimates you can have in a big team fight, and I think Syndicate have almost a full 5. I'm not sure you can count Lilia in there, but she is going to do a lot of damage with the AoE circles regardless. So Syndicate certainly looking to bring their firepower post 6 into team fight scenarios. Shadow Mustangs Unleashed looking to get picks, looking to create the lane kingdom and bring that to their objectives as well. We'll be right back as we load up under Summoner's Rift with our first game. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back just right after the break. Hello everyone and welcome to Style Esports as we are readied up, flying out of our starting gates onto Summoner's Rift with Shadow Mustangs Unleashed taking on Syndicate on red and blue sides respectively. This should be a spicy matchup. We already talked about how much firepower Syndicate have in their draft, but a lot of comfort here for the side of SMU. The Kaisa, the Garen mid, the Gragas top. Everything is fallen in place for SMU. Now they just need to execute on their lanes, get their advantages, push their lead, and close this one out.
Yeah, and we're seeing it is going to be the AP Gragas, have the Doran's Ring, have the Phase Rush here. 20 gold, 13 Green Ninjas, already ahead in gold. But yeah, so Ewok taking that Phase Rush, really, really good for these melee matchups. It lets you get in, hit your Q, W, E, or well, not in that order, but you dash in Q and W on them, and then you're able to just walk away super fast. That is the normal Gragas trading pattern. So Ewok gonna be looking just for those constant trades and just back off, not letting Wukong get the extended damage to proc that Conqueror. And it makes Wukong a very sad monkey.
Yeah, I mean, when you can't walk up to your wave and you can't be bopping creeps upside the head to get the little bit of extra gold, it definitely does hurt your heart a little bit. So I'm going to be a little rough here. You can see actually top lane, Pure Salt looks to have an advantage of the wave for now. We'll keep an eye on that as the lane plays out. But regardless, Merlin going to opt for the Ignite here. That is to be expected, at least with his Gragas, as we get an engage on the bot side. Crash down coming in onto Ninjas, but the Rel is so incredibly slow when she's off her pony that the back end of that trade didn't feel too nice.
Yeah, that is why Rel is not exactly the greatest in terms of laning supports here. She's going to take a lot of damage here. When you go in, you go in. Like, when I am playing Rel as a support player, I don't like to go in until I either like have a guaranteed kill or I have jungle pressure, because otherwise you take so much damage trying to walk out of these fights that it is almost not worth it most of the time.
Yeah, and the all-in from Rel is incredibly powerful, and she has a lot of crowd control, but getting out isn't easy, right? It's not like a lot of other supports where you can almost peel for yourself or peel for your AD carry. You really only have that ability to go forward, and then even if you try to walk away, you're walking so incredibly slow. The point that I was trying to make earlier, though, is that Merlin does have the Ignite. That is to be expected, but that does mean TP advantage should be in the favor basically all game to Syndicate. So looking for that global pressure, looking to get Corando out of this lane and then into these side lanes to help either this Seraphine or the Wukong make that presence. And that could be a really, really interesting bit of a point here. Slick Drake going to hop forward.
Yeah, you can see just
GG
backing
hops
off.
back.
Yeah, not only do you have just the teleport advantage there, but you also, even when the teleport is down, you still have Galio ultimate there. So there's so many times where Corando is going to be just getting around the map. I think later on in the game, what they're looking for is Merlin to get a lead early, be able to pressure, and then just force people to respond to the Garen here. There's the flash engage.
There you go, the flash in, but he didn't even need the crash out. Ignite gonna go very low onto both of them. OTGG barely getting away, along with 13 Great Ninjas. Heals used on both 80 carries, so a close call there in the bot lane, but still first bloodless here between SMU and Syndicate.
Yeah, and that is the kind of guaranteed engage combo there that Rel has. Ooh, Slick Drake gonna just back up.
Yeah, that's the problem. One more auto, it's a W. The Void Seeker from Slick Drake will find the first blood. Wonderfully done to get out of the crash down, and that's the problem we were talking about earlier, Thousand Eyes, is that you had 1,000 problems trying to get away from the Kaisa.
Yeah, a little bit of an uninspired engage there from OTGG. When you have Rel there and you go in, you better hope you're getting the kill first, because you will just get run down afterwards there. Not able to get the knock up needed, and really just kind of faltering and given way too much on the disengage. So OTGG gonna fall down. I was going to bring up that the guaranteed engage is that flash W onto the horse, flip them over, and get the stun. And if you are not going for that, you better be darn sure that there is some setup for you.
Yeah, Karma is one of those champions that can punish you so incredibly hard. Can speed up the AD carry to get those extra autos in. Can provide a shield even if the stun does come through. So 13 green ninjas. I love this last pick for the support. Typically, you'd be like, hey, let's pick up a Thresh. Let's flayed the Crash Downer. Hey, let's grab an Alistar and just headbutt the Rel away. Every time that 0TGG even thinks about going in. But when you pick the Karma, it can be so much more punishing than a simple peel. You can actually let the engage go through, let the Rel get over positioned, and then take your trade, punish it super heavily. And that's what they've done so far in the bot lane. And because of it, Toxic Vayne has gone relatively far behind here in CS, already 5 creeps down with a wave to collect for Slick Drake. So this should be extended. Seraphine doesn't need to keep too far up in creep score, but certainly losing creeps never feels too good, as we're going to get a 2v2 play on the top side. There goes Ewok forward with a body slam. Pure Salt going to use that clone, hop forward. The Cyclone going to be used, but a flag and drag back into the lane will keep Wakian safe.
Yeah, no level 6 from Zaven yet, so not gonna do a whole lot. Corando sitting here with no mana now. Has been just trying to farm with the Q and stay alive. Yeah, we kind of did talk about, oh my goodness, there is the Garen damage. That is kind of what we talked about there. With Ignite and Ultimate, Merlin might have actually been able to get a kill. Don't know for certain, so I think holding on to it is not a bad call. But definitely that is kind of what Merlin's able to do. Still has the flash there, and yeah, Zaven's just going to get over and try and make sure his mid laner can back here. You can actually see, did go for the cloth armor start. Corando really worried about this Garen.
Yeah, I mean, the matchup's supposed to be even, but Merlin's making it not look fun for Corando, even having to call the jungler in to push in that wave so that Galio can base and finally get some items. Merlin just sitting on a D shield. Man's like, yeah, I got base stats for days. I don't really need base. Yeah, he hasn't had to burn the health pot all game long. So feels real good for this Garen so far. Up pretty sizably in CS as well. Also feeling really good about where he's at, as both of them will take their first base. That TP will be used, so no longer a TP advantage, but First Dragon should go to the way of SMU every day here.
Yeah, they have the bot lane pressure. They're able to do so. Even though Galio is in the mid lane, they don't have the pressure to be able to walk into the bushes unwarded and will just give away that first dragon. Important to note, Seeker's Arm Guard has been picked up by Corando. Always a good early item against any kind of AD threat. It gives so much armor once you're able to kill a couple of minions. It is incredibly gold efficient and really smart pickup to just get that as soon as possible. This will, I think, even out the lane a good bit here.
Yeah, should provide a little more safety for Corando. Not going to provide too much power outside of that, but in lane definitely feels good. And you can see Merlin doing his best to keep the freeze, but Galio is really hard to keep the freeze against. He just kind of throws the Winds of War at the wave, clears it all in 1 or 2 abilities, and should be able to shove no problem. Is that we've gotten a bit of a slow start to this game, and that definitely favors Syndicate. As long as they don't get too far behind, as Merlin will start spinning, the Ignite gonna go down. The taunt means Merlin is slowed up, and Ignite used means Wakian gonna try to take advantage of it. The flag and drag forward, the Cataclysm is there, and the Demacian Justice will do a lot of damage. Wakian gonna get the kill credit. It's 2-0 to SMU.
Yeah, the early game base damage that those champions have is ridiculous. The armor shred from the Q on the Jarvan also means that more damage is coming down from both of them. There's not a lot you can do as the Galio in that situation other than just not push up and have your bush warded and hover to that side there. Unfortunately, no wards being down to catch the Jarvan out meant that it was a free kill for Wokian and a great assist from Merlin.
Easy stuff there in the mid lane. Merlin using both his summoners and his ulti, but definitely still worth for the Garen. Getting that early lane kingdom, that's what we were talking about, the win conditions for SMU. And just as I was about to say, we had a slow start to the game, and that would favor Syndicate's draft. Of course, they're going to Caster Curse me, put that pressure on to Corando as he'll die for the first time. Still spinning is Merlin. Corando not going to be able to connect to Justice Punch there in the mid lane, so will lose out on the trade. And the Syndicate just need to be able to survive until these later game objectives come online, when they all get their ultis, all can pile on the crowd control and use those big AoE damage bursts to one-shot whoever they're looking at.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. The big issue, though, is that they are falling behind, even if there aren't kills. You look at the top side, it is 65 to 95 in CS right now. Pure Salt is not having a good time here, and Wukong is not an incredible late game scaling champion. So that is going to be a bit of a rough spot. He's not bad. Don't want to give the indication that he is bad, but he is known for his early game dueling, not his late game, frontlining that he's able to do. It takes somebody fairly skilled to make it work later. And this composition lacks a lot of DPS in the late game. While they have a lot of crowd control and a lot of kind of setup, if they don't hit those, there's not a lot of damage to back it up, as we got an engage.
Cyclone gonna be used. Ewok trying to flash away, but the lilting lullaby is there, and good night, sweet prince. Ewok 365 are gonna have to spend 365 days back in its fountain, as it was a 3-man play to the top lane, and that's the first time we've seen an aggressive look from Syndicate, but it pays off.
Yeah, and they're going to use the Rift Herald as well, but the big thing about that is they use 3 ultimates there. They use the Cyclone, the Hero's Entrance, and the Lilting Lullaby. They're going to get a lot of damage on this tower. They might even be able to take it here. Ewok does not have the teleport to get back up there. Don't think they're gonna actually, no, I think they will. They're going to get this first tower, and that is big for Pure Salt there. That means he can roam around a little bit more. He can use that Cyclone in a more skirmish type of environment, which is much better for him. And there wasn't really much gained from Wokian there. With all of that pressure on the top side, Wokian did not really accomplish a whole lot on the bottom side of the map because Toxic Vayne and OTGG were sitting under their tower.
Yeah, and I mean, while you would want to see some counter jungling, didn't really come through, or some sort of dive in the bot lane. Is pretty hard into champions like Seraphine Rel, especially with all their summoners and ultimates available. So all that gold lead we were talking about and all that early advantage that Syndicate had found for them, that SMU had found for themselves, Syndicate basically nullified that. The gold lead now is negligible at just about 1,000 as we get to the Drake. Merlin maybe caught out, is very fast. With that speed, Merlin gonna spin a little bit. Another seed gonna bowl on by, and now we're gonna get our first team fight of the game.
Yeah, big to note. Flash will burn. No Cyclone.
There's your engage from the rail, the flip over the shoulder of the Magnet Storm, and there's the charm, and it connects on too. And Kaiser's trying to get away from the fight, but it doesn't matter. Slick Drake, one is the only remaining standing, and he will fall. Pure Salt is going to get himself his first kill. Merlin trying to run for the hills, but his legs can't take him far enough, and Toxic Vayne is also going to get the first. And there's that team fight prowess from Syndicate, as they are absolutely dominating in that fight, almost a full 5-0.
Yeah, that was a really strong fight there, and major props to OTGG hitting a huge Magnet Storm to pull 3 people in and make the follow-up encore from Toxic Vayne just absurdly strong. Ewok not hitting that barrel was huge, because that was the only real disengage that they had outside of like a Karma alt E, and that was not going to be enough to get them out of that situation there. So burning that early, not getting anything other than the Lilia flash, and being able to hit massive ultimates in return meant that while the fight split up, they were able to just chase them down.
And Merlin, he's spinning some more, but doesn't do nearly enough now to the completed Steel Caps and Seekers. That's a lot of damage from Slick Drake with the Gale Force. No Killer Instinct to be able to follow up on the play, and TGG is going to have to hop out, as well as 13 Green Ninjas and Slick Drake understand now that they have a lot of damage in their belts compared to the relatively squishy Seraphine at this point. They'll knock down the first turret here for SMU, surely. And should be now even in terms of tower count. Wakian here is hovering towards the bot side as the base comes through for Zaven. I'm curious whether anyone is going to pull the trigger for this Rift Herald. It should be the next objectives that teams are looking at. But Syndicate, man, they just have too much team fight prowess. And now SMU should understand that Syndicate, if they get that big engage off, things look disastrous.
Yeah, so what they really need to do here is just kind of keep the pressure split up. They want Ewok in that top lane to be able to keep up and just kind of stick on this Wukong, force him to try and defend this tower or take it in response. Because, yeah, you look at that, Pure Salt cannot do anything in that lane.
Oh, there's your cask, and maybe it's the return play here from the Galio. Corando gonna show up the Justice Punch forward, but slowed up by the barrel. And now Wakian is here. He was hovering topside earlier. The smite's gonna go down. The flag and drag to knock up Corando, and without flash, there's no way away. The Twirl Seed finds its mark, but won't be enough to pull the trigger for the Lilting Lullaby as the bot lane is rotated up, but it's a free kill onto an overextended Corando.
Yeah, and using the hero's entrance, a long cooldown to show up and then over chase their... Pure Salt had no ability to follow up on that and give backup to Corando, so not paying attention to what the objectives available were, you know, you talked about it, the Rift Herald was available, and that's what Wakian was doing. It made it just real easy that when that hero's entrance came down, he just walks up and helps his top laner get a free kill.
Feels sad, man, when you're trying to make the play with the Galio ulti and things get turned around. The jungler is there, and while you do have map pressure, if your jungler isn't there to match the 2v2, it's still a fair number fight. So Wakian at the right place in the right time. Pure Salt got chunked out too hard at the beginning of that by the explosive cast from Ewok to be able to help his mid laner. But it's Rift Herald now started up by Syndicate, as they know that Wakian is clearing his bot side because he was just spotted in top. So this should be a free rift to the name of Syndicate. It's just about now how they use it. The Slick Drake hops forward once more, throws down some Macathian Rain. There's a lot of damage as per usual. Merlin spinning, interrupts the Justice Punch, won't get much more.
Yeah, and this is kind of what we talked about there with SMU wanting to split up the map. They're continuing to do so here. The dragon is going to be spawning in a minute. They have Merlin on that bottom side there, just trying to keep up the pressure. Meanwhile, with the jungle, Zaven having the Rift Herald, able to pop it, try and crack this mid lane should give them pressure. That's only if they decide to use it, though. As Slick Drake and 13 Green Ninjas, they're able to clear this out pretty effectively as the Kaisa Karma. Right now, I am kind of just looking at what is Merlin able to do here to create enough pressure to make this dragon hard for Syndicate to try and contest, because they don't want them to feel like they can contest it. If Syndicate can walk up on this dragon, that's already just over and a loss for SMU. They can't take those kinds of team fights. They need to make sure that they are winning lane hard enough that Syndicate don't feel safe walking into the dragon area at all.
Yeah, and you can see Merlin doing his best to push out that bot wave, but Corando is not going to have a problem returning this shove at all. Dragon now available with no one moving to it. Finally, SMU will be the first team to move forward. Merlin going to hop forward here. Not going to find enough Justice Punch plus Aftershock. Does a lot to keep Corando safe. Now Toxic Vein and 0TGG are going to find their way into the river, and we're probably going to get another skirmish here. But again, it's all about execution for Syndicate. Need to find that big initial burst, but it's SMU that pull off of the dragon.
Yeah, and I think that's the correct call, honestly, because they can't contest it. They learned that from the last fight. If they don't get that control, they just can't fight it because they're going to lose it and lose the dragon. So they're making the right call. Pure Salt was down there to try and fight it, force the TP back. So they did get a little bit of something out of it. But they're just going to give the dragon. I think that's fine. You do that, you get pressure. Would have hoped to see them get that dragon, or not the dragon, the tower in the mid lane. But definitely the right call not to fight that and give more gold over.
Yeah, and Pure Salt being very patient, just giving up whatever he needed in top lane, heading down to the dragon and then TPing back top, kept that top tier turret alive. Mid turret sadly not
Oh,
going to
here
go
comes
down. The
Slick.
Lilting Lullaby will be used just to push Slick Drake off of the mid tier 1. And Cathian Rain will do enough to delete that Rift Herald.
That's
But
really
it's just a
big. Yeah,
Rift
that's
here.
fine here.
Now the Cataclysm going to come in. OTGG hops himself over the wall. Merlin is in the back end of this fight. The TP now in from Karando. As everyone is here in the mid lane, and a 4v5, Pure Salt still pushing in top side.
They got the flash out of Toxic Vein there, so still got something out of that ultimate there. It was a little bit rushed. They did not have the immediate engage potential that they would have loved to have there. Unfortunately, because like with that Lilting Lullaby down, that is so much like team pressure and setup that is gone. It makes it so easy for either the Rel or the Seraphine to kind of hit their big team fight ultimates. And that could have been like a huge fight if there was more of SMU there to kind of follow it up. I like the idea, I like the call, and they still did win it. They got the Seraphine flash, but would have loved to see them get a little more out of that.
Yeah, to me, it feels like they laid the groundwork for the fight to come. That's a 5-minute cooldown, and with 3 minutes on the Dragon, Seraphine Flash shouldn't be available at least maybe right before the Dragon. So you've done the reconnaissance, you've done the groundwork. Now it's all about getting that pick onto the Flashless Seraphine, but it might be Slick Drake that's in trouble. The Encore is going to go down. The Killer Instinct doesn't take Slick Drake away, and he's shut down by 0TGG. Green Ninjas ticks down to double-digit HP. Gets away just barely, but that's 4 summoners burned by SMU, man. I thought they found the reconnaissance onto the Seraphine, but it was an Encore that punished SMU. They've lost their AD carry with a good play in mid from Syndicate.
Yeah, Zaven already level 12 here, so the Lilting Lullaby cooldown not super long, especially with the Leandries and that Amplifying Tome, or the Fiendish Codex, actually. You got plus you got the cooldown boots as well, so there's a lot of cooldown reduction here, or ability haste for those that would like to call it as such. There's a lot of reduced cooldown on that ultimate. Plus, with running the Dark Harvest here, I'm assuming that is the no, it's the Ravenous Hunter, not the Ultimate Hunter there. But still, a lot of cooldown reduction on that ultimate, and that is so like they got the flash and immediate turn on that, but they kind of just forgot that ability comes off cooldown not too long from after it's used.
Yeah, and with that pick in mid, it didn't offer too much. Couldn't even crack the mid tier 1 with Slick Drake going down. But they do get 4 summoners. That's the critical piece here for Syndicate. Now you have a flashless, healless Kai'Sa with a full-on engaged composition. If they can find Slick Drake out with maybe a flank from Pure Soul, or the initial engage from the Flash Rel, or whatever it is, Slick Drake is dead to rights. Yeah, or just one of those random swirl seeds. Slick Drake, there's no way he gets out, even bound up there in mid. Even that's so scary for Slick Drake at this time.
I was half expecting it there. Hitting the root there is honestly usually kind of a go button. You have the Rel engage, you have the Encore there, and Kai'Sa's stuck. I was kind of surprised to not see an engage there, because what could have happened there, I think, you hit that Encore, you force Kai'Sa back, and it's almost impossible then for SMU to contest this next Dragon. Because Kai'Sa has to back there. It gives you all the opportunity in the world to clear out the Dragon area and clear out all the vision. They're going to go on to Slick Drake now, though.
Pure Salt over the wall, but Supercharger keeps Slick Drake alive. Merlin still free pushing, meanwhile, on this bot side. And with first move, again, Syndicate have control of this Dragon, and I'm not sure that SMU ever want to walk in. They're probably just going to have to look to trade a third Dragon away. Merlin's on the run. What in the world, man? Merlin is heading...
He's fine.
Yeah, he's heading to Antarctica.
He's taking them on an adventure here, and that's fine. That's what he wants to do. That is the win condition currently there, because It is Ewok and Merlin here. Those two in side lanes can do so much, and you can see it here. And once again, they know they can't fight these dragons. They're saying, okay, it's their dragon. We're just going to take towers. We're just going to take other objectives around the map. And I think that is such a smart call when a lot of teams I like will watch will try and fight these anyway. They'll say, oh, we can't give up dragons. We can't do that. But you absolutely can, and they're going to.
Yeah, and such smart play, but they're going to take the fight in mid lane regardless. Merlin going to be hit with the initial encore, and there's another one onto Slick Drake. Remember, he had no summoners, and he's dead. Pure Salt flashing forward with Cyclone. He's going to find Merlin as well, and Joaquin's in a whole hell of a lot of trouble, and he'll burn down. Toxic Bane going to get himself a double kill in the fight, and with 13 Green Ninjas stuck under his own turret, he doesn't feel safe. It is a 4-man wipe for Syndicate. They get 4 members of SNU, only losing the Rel in the process, and with that play in mid, they're gonna march straight towards the Baron.
I feel like SMU saw that they were like, oh, the dragon's done, we can fight them now, and just completely forgetting oh, the reason we can't fight them is because they're all grouped together, not because dragon is some special circumstance here. That was a really poor engage there when you just need to keep splitting. The right call to me there is keep pushing that top side, force them to respond to you, and then back off. But if you try and force an engage when you're not absolutely certain that the rest of the team is not around, that is what happens there. You don't get the kill, you dive too deep, and then you're stuck in a 5v5 situation that you never wanted to be in the first place.
Feels really, really bad for SMU. I'm not sure. It feels like they lost sight of their objective, which was don't touch an objective. I mean, SMU are never supposed to group up like that, and Syndicate punished them hard for it. Merlin trying to find some flank angle, and they just pull out the encore, they pull out the engage, and SMU are punished hard for it. And now what SMU wanted to do was put their solo laners in these side lanes. It's going to be so incredibly difficult to do for the next little bit against Baron. Yes, Merlin still might be able to get some push down here, but he's never going to be able to threaten. Maybe he might be able to get this tier 2, but certainly never going to be able to touch the base. And with that, because the Baron now extends into Soul Time, Syndicate certainly looking happy in 2 and just over a half minutes at Cloud Soul.
Yeah, it is going to be just up around that. Even if Baron is not available during the Soul fight, it is going to at least let them get the push that they need to get control of the area, and mostly make sure that SMU don't have control of the area more than anything. Merlin gonna be struggling, you can see here, just to try and clear this wave out. I want to say that absolutely in the late portions of this game, I favor SMU as a composition just because they have much more of a DPS capability, and it's going to be so hard as we see some fighting happening. It's going to be so hard for the Seraphine and Lilia to eat through the Garen Jarvan. Oh no, big sleep.
That rolling lullaby is gonna force the flash of 13 Green Ninjas, understanding that he could get one shot even under his own turret. Ewok gonna take a hefty trade with Pure Salt as well. Merlin looking to do the same. Just this punch will throw him up into the air. But the constant threat of those Twirl Seeds means that they have to be so respectful of this Baron empowered siege. Ewok gonna use the explosive cask and the Farsight trinket just to make sure he's not getting flanked by his opponent. Retreating now, but that Farsight doesn't do enough. The body slam away is good, but the root with the beat drop is enough. And Ignite ticks. Goes golden, but it doesn't matter. It's Toxic Vein grabbing himself another shutdown. Going golden to avoid a little bit of a turret damage. Locked into the Cataclysm, but OTGG has found another engage. The Magnet Swarm gonna lock up Woken. He's doing good. Flag and drag, but it doesn't matter. There you go, man. Syndicate. Everyone arrives here in the top sign. Make it a fiesta. There's no more siesta for Syndicate. They play it well. They rotate every member they need, and they're going to crack the base of SMU in just over 30 minutes.
Yeah, SMU are in panic mode right now. They saw Ewok getting taken down and they thought they had to go up there and protect him, but they unfortunately started once again taking fights they never wanted to take in the first place, and that is what caused their demise. They fell behind, just constantly taking fights they never needed, and that will be game number 1 going over towards Syndicate here.
Yeah, not even 30 minutes on the clock. Syndicate doing well for themselves here in game 1. We expected a close one, but at the end of the day, SMU really just didn't get what they wanted. They didn't win their lanes hard enough. They couldn't get the side lanes going, and because of it, Syndicate punish hard. They group up for objectives, and every time that SMU, Shadow Mustangs Unleashed, were looking for side lane play, they bring the Galio, they bring the TP from Pure Assault and make the plays in the side lanes and push for objectives from there on out. With that said, a wonderful game number 1. We'll be right back with game number 2 between SMU and Syndicate. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Style Esports. Game 2, we're coming at you with the action hot and fast. SMU taking on Syndicate. And what a performance from Syndicate in game number 1, executing on their win conditions, grouping up, finding big engages, using their global presence, teleports, Galio ultimates alike, and pulling out a quick win in just under 30 minutes for themselves. SMU now on the blue side, looking to switch things up with a first pick. Not going to switch too much up. Still looking at that dog, and it's locked
Same
in.
champion. Yes. gonna take the exact same first pick here. Or actually not the exact same first pick, but one of their priority picks here. Syndicate also, I like they're respecting the Seraphine. They're making sure that the other team is not able to do the same thing to them. But SMU taking out the Udyr, the Yorick, and the Swain once again, not changing up the bans. And meanwhile, Syndicate, they're taking the Olaf and the Rel here. Now, I am not a huge fan of the Olaf personally anymore. I think the recent nerfs to him are really big, and they take away part of what was making him so absurdly strong, which is his survivability in fights. He lost both attack speed on his passive. I believe he lost a little bit of lifesteal on his W, and he lost a lot of survivability with Gore Drinker. Those three things were so influential on making him an obscenely strong jungler. Now he is just kind of a quick clear jungler with early gank pressure. He does not scale anywhere near as long as he used to previously.
Yeah, and I mean, with Gore Drinker getting nerfed, that 25% HP to over 80% HP Dream, not really a thing. The Seric's Gauge shield as well makes it really, really rough for Olaf in the late game. So regardless, though, Syndicate still going to opt for the Olaf, the Brolof in the jungle. SMU going to look for the Ezreal as they lock that one in. Not been too popular of a champion. We've seen a little bit of new technology with the Ezreal. First item, Essence Reaver, somewhere with a Man Immune thrown in, and then a Dusk Blade can always be built on the Ezreal if you're looking for that raw attack damage. Aphelios, though, this is my heart and soul all-in-one champion. Syndicate gonna grab themselves at 200 years.
Yeah, I'm a little concerned of what your heart and soul contain, if that is what is in there.
Don't worry.
Yeah, well, you tell me not to, but you're not giving me a good look here. Regardless, I do want to touch on the Ezreal Lulu, which is not a combination that you see a lot of. That is exceedingly safe. And SMU not actually getting the Galio, gonna ban it away, or sorry, Syndicate not getting the Galio, and that will mean that it is going to be banned away. SMU right now, I am really kind of confused on what their composition is going to kind of turn into at the later points of this draft, because it seems to me like they're going for the same kind of style of just like, we're going to try and win lane or like be really strong out of lane and skirmish, where Syndicate, they are definitely changing things up and becoming less team fight oriented, less push R to win game. They're still really strong at doing that though. Aphelios can be obscene in these mid-game team fights with the ultimate hitting a bunch of people, regardless of what gun it is. And then Olaf has a lot of early gank pressure, which can then turn into, control over objectives. And depending on what these champions that they pick up here, that can be an entirely similar composition of, we're just going to take objective fights and constantly win them.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of prowess here from Syndicate. They're doing the same thing over again, but with a different look. Orianna, ball delivery with Rel. Olaf running in on top of Aphelios, dishing out fats amount of damage from the backline. I really like what they've built for themselves. Merlin, of course, he's got 2.5 champions. Garen mid, I'm going to throw in as a half a champion. So you've got Annie, which has been banned away. So there's the Xerath. Makes a lot of sense for SMU, getting more range built into their composition. And they have 4 range champions. Yes, yeah, technically Gragas is a melee, whatever. But he has so much range built into his kit between his Q, his aggressive long distance body slam, and the ult. He almost counts another, but the Scion in for SMU. If you need one melee champ and you need him to stand there and absorb damage, Scion's your guy.
Yeah, so looking at this composition completed now, SMU's comp is a poke comp. It is all about sieging objectives. The Lulu with the Moonstone will give a lot more survivability. They can kind of, as long as Ezreal and Xerath are poking, Lulu can shield one of those two. It will count as an in combat person and give the heal. Is that is Malphite? That is not Kog'Maw. That is Malphite. Okay.
Okay.
I was
makes
gonna
much
say
more
what
sense.
is happening right now.
I was
Yeah.
gonna
So
say, so it's Olaf top, Rel jungle. I don't know. Go ahead.
yeah.
I was
Yeah.
coming up with something in my head, but it didn't work.
yeah, Syndicate running a very similar composition, just with a couple of different champions here. But I will get to that in a second because SMU's comp, I actually really, really like this time around. They have the Scion that is going to be really, really strong as far as just a frontline champion to give a lot of space for these poke champions. Lulu with the Moonstone gives, like I said, gives a lot of survivability. It's not going to really matter a whole lot until the Moonstone is completed because it's going to be just shields, not heals. But once that Moonstone is done, that's a lot of extra survivability. The Gragas, Ezreal, Xerath, they're going to be raining down so much damage from such a distance that if SMU are able to get an early lead here, that will make it really, really hard for Syndicate to try and take these objectives. But Syndicate, on the other hand, they are running a very similar composition as before with a more aggressive jungler. Still a farming jungler, but a jungler that is much better at dueling and getting some early ganks off if you're pushed up. Important to note here, Corando is really kind of a two-trick champion player. Has the Swain as the massive one, and then the Galio is the secondary. Orianna is just kind of not on the radar there. It is a steep drop off. You've got, 65 games on the Swain, 14 on the Galio. Next highest mid laner is, if you count it, I don't even know if this is being played mid, but Tristana. And then after that at 5, and then Ari at 4. Like, it is a steep cliff of experience when you're looking at Corando's champion pool here.
Yeah, and I mean, we'll have to see whether the balls are on point or if, the command dissonance and the shockwave and all the tools that Orianna has under the belt, if Corando can manage them successfully. And against champions like a Xerath and like a Gragas, who can be hit and one-shot by your abilities, it can be extremely impactful. If you whiff shockwave in these team fights, Merlin is going to have a blast just free firing from the back line along with Slick Drake. So really needs to find that. Good news for Corando is that he has some of the best ball delivery in the game.
Yeah.
When you're playing an Orianna, you really aren't trying to hit a raw shockwave. You're using your teammates to set it up. And Pure Salt, I'm not sure you could ask for a better champion to just dive face first into the enemy team, type ROQ and chat, and then shockwave everyone together. So they do have that power duo for them to be able to execute on their win condition in the Orianna.
Yeah, not just the Malphite, but also the Olaf as well as a secondary possibility. Rel could even be one, but I think the Rel's a little too slow. But Olaf, he could pop the R, run at people, and just place it wherever he needs to. Crowd control be damned. He can go where the ball needs to be, and that can be a really solid, capable placement device if the Malphite ult is not available.
Yeah,
Corando has left the lobby.
Hop out of champion select, or at least client select for now, as you can take a lovely look at our pro draft scene once again. But we will see that resolution come together awfully soon. I believe it was just a mid laner technological issue, so almost resolved already. But regardless, as team compositions come together here at Mr. Thousand Eyes, we're going to have a little bit more time for you to use your big old brain that I know you got. SMU, they flex the Gragas to the jungle. Not going to give that one to Ewok in the top lane. I'm curious what you think their win conditions are for this game. Syndicate, it seems a little more easy. It's what they did last game. Group up, use their big team fight ultimates, and win the game. SMU had a rough time. It felt like they were forcing a fight in mid lane at around that 26, 27 minute mark. and things just fell apart from there. So what do they need to do different in order to pull off this win and force us to a game 3?
To me, what SMU need to do is constantly remind themselves what composition they are playing. Because I don't mean to be like rude about that or nasty about that, but it seems very much like they kind of forgot what they were playing and just played into what Syndicate wanted to do last game. They just said like, oh, well, there's a fight happening, so we all need to get in there and push our R buttons. When you need to play smarter than that and say, for a while they were. For a while they were saying like, okay, we can't take these fights. Let's get objectives on the other side of the map. Let's be smart about it. And then once it hit the mid game there, it started to kind of be like panic mode when they weren't winning enough. And they just kind of fell into that trap of pushing all their R buttons in fights and, you know, going like, how did we lose? So I want to see them play much smarter, like just constantly remind yourself, guys, we're a poke comp. We are a composition that does not want to take full-on fights. I want to see what Wokian's going to go for on this Gragas, if it is a tank Gragas build or if it is the AP Gragas. I don't know what is more popular in the jungle right now off the top of my head. But if it is the tank Gragas, just have those two always play frontline, have the Gragas barrel used purely for disengage there, and have Xerath stay super far back. Ezreal can play a little further up and, you know, shift out of any bad situations. The biggest thing that I want to see is them just recognizing what it is they need to be doing, not what the current enemy team is trying to make them do.
Yeah, I mean, play to your own strengths instead of playing into the hands of the enemy is always one way to ensure that you are in the right spot at the right time. Outside of that, though, there's a lot of options here for SMU in terms of lane pressure and lane priority. I think top lane should go okay for Ewok. I mean, this matchup doesn't mean too much in the grand scheme of things.
It's a bunch of beefy boys slapping each other on the back.
It's tank v tanks, like who cares? But at the same time, you'll still have priority in that lane for the most part. Can just clear the wave with one big slam down there. Mid lane, you have the range advantage in Merlin, a very comfortable champion as well, so can look to use that experience to shove out this wave. And then Ezreal Lulu, you have tier ranged into a melee ranged matchup as well. So I like what SMU have drafted here. They've got a lot of priority, putting a lot of work in this Gragas, but you need to get the Gragas active on the map, or Olaf is going to be farming, he's going to be getting objectives, and Syndicate are just going to, again, run over this game come the time where they have Soul, and then SMU are like, okay, guys, we have to walk into them here, and then they end up getting wiped because of it. So SMU looking to get aggressive nice and early on. Syndicate, I'm looking at players like Toxic Vayne on the Aphelios and Zaven on this Olaf to really show up this game. They're the two carries. If you can shut down the Aphelios and the Olaf this game, things could be actually a little rough for Syndicate here.
Yeah, so just off the top of my head looking at this, I have three things that I'm kind of looking at here. One, small thing, I think this is actually an opportunity for Pure Salt to actually go for the Grasp Malphite instead of the Comet. The Comet is generally taken because it gives you some sort of lane pressure into kind of like bruiser matchups. Sion, he's not going to die. You're not going to get him low. He's going to be able to shield the Comet, you know, get the Grasp and scale up alongside him a little bit. The jungle matchup I'm looking at here, Wokian, what I want to see him do is mirror Zaven as much as possible, because Olaf, he can just farm, but if he goes for an early gank, he doesn't deal with counter ganks well because he does not have a form of hard crowd control, and that can get interrupted super easy before his ultimate comes online. So if Wokian is there to kind of stuff any, like Olaf likes ganking early if the lanes are pushed up. If Wokian can be there to either waste his time or, you know, get something positive out of it, that is great for them. The bot lane, Ezreal is much easier to dodge these rel engages off than the Kaisa, and OTGG was already struggling to try and get a good engage off. We saw a couple of times where OTGG went in on this rel and just kind of got stuck up way too far and either almost died or did die on the re-engage there. So that's going to be even worse this time around, and I am kind of concerned to see if OTGG gets caught out. And actually, one more last thing, Xerath into Orianna is not a fun matchup for Orianna. She doesn't
Yeah.
like to be against these long range mages because there is no opportunity for her to walk up and get any kind of harass down.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly is a rough one, and I think Merlin, with the comfort as well, knows how to abuse a matchup like that. So, looking at SMU here to push us to a game 3 or Syndicate in a swift 2-0 style, we shall see. 40 seconds left on the spectator delay. The theory crafting is done. We have done our job in terms of giving you what can happen, but now our job begins in what happens here on Summoner's Rift. SMU looking for this game. We'll be right back in just over 25 seconds when spectator delay is done. Stay tuned. Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to Silent Esports. We are back on Summoner's Rift between SMU and Syndicate. If you weren't here for game number 1, or if you're just tuning in, Syndicate, man, they looked good in game 1. They executed on what they knew they could win off of, also known as a win condition, and proceeded to basically end the game off of one swift team fight. That's all they were looking for, and that's really all they're looking for this game again. So SMU have a little bit of work to do. Shadow Mustangs Unleashed really need to dive into the shadows here, into the depths of the knowledge that they have about League of Legends to weasel their way around the big death ball composition that Syndicate have drafted once again.
Yeah, they have the tools here. Lots of disengage opportunities here. Xerath and Ezreal can stay super far back. Gragas Barrel, good at disengage. The Scion Q can force people to back off when they might want to try and dive in. The only worry he really got is that Olaf there. With the Ragnarok, it is hard to stop him from running people down, but that is where Lulu Shields and Ultimate will come in.
And a couple things we noticed as the game loaded up. It is indeed the Grasp Malphite. That makes sense. But what doesn't make too much sense is the other Grasp, or one of the other Grasps we have in this game, which is on Slick Drake, the Ezreal, opting for a little bit more HP this time around.
Yeah, I feel like he copied the wrong runes. He copied the top laner runes by accident, and Slick Drake has the grasp here. Not something you really ever see. Like you said, the only reason I can put together as to why you would want to take this is for the extra tankiness to survive being dove by this this Olaf and this Malphite. But even then, it does not strike me as a great plan.
Yeah, and I mean, you can see Slick Drake here in bot lane doing a little bit of work with the grass procs, but while it might be good in lane, Conquer is one of, if not the best scaling rune in League of Legends. Dark Harvest comes pretty close. It is incredibly good come late game once you have a lot of stacks. But Conqueror's late game healing, especially for a marksman, feels so good. And that extra damage you get can make the difference in a team fight. And you can see, again, Mystic Shot going to find its mark, getting a grass proc, but I just don't know. I'm not sold on the Grasp Ezreal yet. We didn't get any message for a remake. We didn't get anything.
He has Demolish. That might be part of why here. He has Demolish.
Split push,
and,
maybe.
Yeah. Well, not split push, but think about what their team composition wants to do here. It is siege. They want to constantly poke and get people under tower and then make people kind of back off and get a bunch of damage onto the tower and take the towers and win the game that way. So Demolish allows them to do so. It's not necessarily great on your AD carry, but I mean, I can start to see some of the logic here. Still not sure if I agree with it, but it is not like as absurd as I was previously thinking.
Yeah, I mean, there are perks, but AD carries are just naturally good at taking turrets regardless. Demolish will help a little bit. Here we go in mid lane though. Some more normal action in League of Legends. That makes sense to me. When Corando is caught out in mid lane and there's a Gragas behind him and a Xerath in front of him, it makes so much sense. And he's dead regardless. Syndicate are going to give away first blood here in the mid lane. Merlin grabbing himself a nice assist, but it's Walkian on this Gragas flex in the jungle that gets first blood.
Yeah, and a good start there. And that is kind of like, if that was a Galio, I don't think that gank would have worked anywhere near as well. But the CC combo there, stacking it up really well, making sure that they didn't overlap their CC time at all. And just a clear, straight, easy early kill, which is going to give the Sorcerer Boots over to Wokian right away with this Predator. That is a massively good start for them.
Yeah, and look at this damage coming now into Toxic Vein. The Grasp Ezreal, man, I'm telling you, it's too good. No, I'm just joking. It's
that is the Lulu into the Rel. That is the Lulu into the Rel, I think, more than anything. But yeah, the Ezreal into the Aphelios, also not a fun time. But yeah, Aphelios can only heal so much with the red gun there. So
yeah, I mean, it's like we were saying in draft, it's double range. Into melee range, so always gonna have shove, always gonna have pressure, and those picks, they do hurt early on. You never really can grasp, for a lack of a better word, how much damage picks does. Pure Salt very low under this turret. There's another wave coming in here for Ewok. Needs to shove this one very quickly before Pure Salt can clear it out. If they do want to pull off this dive, could be a little dangerous though. Walk-in, no smite available, so gonna do Krugs. Could be an angle though, Pure Salt very low.
Yeah, Pure Salt getting very low here, and this is definitely a dive they could try and go for. The level 6 has not come through, will come through on this wave though.
Look at the damage, but Zavon is here to save his top laner from certain death. All Ewok had to do was walk up, bonk him on the head, and Pure Salt definitely dies every day of the week, but will get out with his life, able to retreat to the safety of his tier 2 thanks to the Olaf coming up to hover his top laner.
Yeah, Wilkie got a little too greedy there for the Krugs and gave up the opportunity for the kill on the top laner there. Zaven playing really smart there, making sure he's up there to protect his top laner when things start going bad. And
Oh, Merlin popping the ulti. Not sure he's going to be able to find too much with it. As Director Camo said, no, we're not really interested. We're just going to check out bot lane. So Merlin, no kill there. Did get Corando's flash though. So when a mobile mage like Orianna, always going to feel real nice.
Yeah, and looking at this bot lane here, oh my goodness, yeah, damage coming through. Sheen already purchased here the Essence Reaver. Is the rush item for the Ezreal here, not any other mythic.
Wow. That was a very respectful flash from 13 Green Ninjas. Maybe seeing that Zavon was there with the Ragnarok available at level 6, but regardless, it is a respectful flash. But this one is going to have to be a arcane shift out, but OTGG taking a lot of damage at the back end of that trade. Both marksman and support here from SMU and Syndicate alike low, but with Lulu in tow, feels definitely better. And Grasp as well, man. You just get all that HP back. So I'm liking this Ezreal the more and more I watch it.
Yeah, definitely feels a lot safer there. The dragon snuck away here. Now Ragnarok coming through.
There's no flash. There's no flash on the Lulu, not even level 6. But here comes Walk-In. There's the jungler and the TP from Ewok to join the party. The train slams face first into the Aphelios. But Zavon, he's got no flash. He's got no way away. And Walk-In will take the kill credit on the Gragas. Gonna get himself a nice base here. There's an outside look at the damage now from Slick Drake coming forward. As Aphelios now stuck under a turret with no summoner spells. 13 Green Ninjas and Slick Drake will be content to push in this wave, but it's only a kill after all that. It's only one kill given to the side of SMU.
Yeah, and the teleport burned from Ewok there. They did lose the dragon at the same time, and Gragas was the one who got the kill. Now, with the AP Gragas, I am okay with Gragas taking the kill. I would love to see Merlin get, off the ground with this Xerath, because Xerath with kills is insanely obnoxious in the mid game there. TP coming now with the Malphite.
TP, yeah, they've got Malphite ulti, and Slick Drake has a flash, but he's just dead. There's the wild growth onto 13 Green Ninjas. It finally comes down, but can they chase the Lulu onto the turret? They say no, they will back away. Lulu gets away with a life, but Slick Drake just can't say the same.
Yeah, very clean kill. Corando, though.
Oh, this is a one-shot. Walk-In, no cask, though. It's not enough damage, and the phase rush may keep him safe, but it doesn't matter. It's the tick down that ends up burning down Corando. Well done there to play around that fog of war and getting an easy pickup 3-0. Every single kill that has gone to the way of SMU has been for this Walk-In Gragas.
Yeah, and that's kind of just lazy pathing there from Corando. The bot lane obviously did not have the jungler, he did not have the jungler with him. The jungler was bot lane, and there was not anywhere near enough safety or understanding of where Walk-In was to really allow for Corando to get up there and put that vision down. I get wanting to have that vision, but you need to make sure you're aware of where people are before you try and go for that.
Yeah, that's the critical mistake is just not knowing where Walk-In was at that time.
Look at Ewok.
He made up. Yeah, Ewok. Man,
what is Ewok doing up there?
He's proxying wave after wave, but Olaf
solid Snake Scion coming in.
a little rough for Ewok. Probably he's going to have to burn the flash here over the wall. No flashes here other than Pure Salt, but here comes Walk-In to turn this one around. Ragnarok is available. There it is. He's going to pop it. In comes Rel with a crash down, and Walk-In, he is dead to rights. They're going to chase him down. Return kill now onto Zavon. It's the first one of the fight. 0TGG not going to have enough to make the play happen. Will mount up onto the horse. Get a little bit of a honey fruit. It's a 1-to-1 trade. Both junglers go and see the gray screen for a little bit.
Yeah, and Ewok kind of trolling his team a little bit there. Getting a little bit too big for his britches, trying to take those Krugs, and caused his jungler to die. The shutdown going over. I actually not sure. I think it was Rel that picked that up. But yeah, that is a big whoopsie there, and Walking pays the price. I honestly think Ewok should have just taken the death there and not baited his jungler into it. But unfortunately, will lose the shutdown gold, and now Pure Salt gets a little bit of extra time to catch up in this top lane.
Yeah, and the good news here for the side of SMU is the shutdown gold goes over to OTGG. So that feels not terrible. But when you're taking wins like that, it never feels amazing. At the best, though, Walk-In's off the map for a little bit, not farming his jungle, not clearing camps, now finally back onto his Raptors. But shutdown is shutdown gold nonetheless. So Syndicate have that to work with, about 2,000 gold behind, 2.5 as that plate goes down for SMU once again. Dragon up in 25 seconds, though. Everyone has got their ultimates available. This is really when Syndicate, their team composition comes online and can really start to punish SMU's mistakes. As Pure Salt going to just run down Ewok, as he will finally take a beating in the back for his sins.
I'm looking at this build from Pure Salt, and this is really weird. Pure Salt is going for a mix of AP and tank. I do not care for this, honestly. I feel like this is just kind of, you need to pick one and stick with it. It's obviously going to help in the laning phase, but it's going to make you a much less effective tank, and there's the engage.
Play into the top lane. Pure Salt gonna have to use that unstoppable force to get out, but the TP is being channeled. It's Karando here in the front line. A good explosive cast, but man, Walk-In, you just shoved 3 members right back into your Scion. And Ewok will pay for that cast with his life. The passive not gonna do enough. So your TGG waiting in the wing, waiting for the moment to make the play, and here you go. There's flashes on both of these members. Flash immediately used by Slick Drake. The turret's going to be thrown down. The Sentry, the Moonlight Vigil. That's a lot of damage. The Wild Growth has to be used onto Slick Drake, burning everything there as the bot lane from SMU, and suddenly Syndicate have found themselves a sizable fight.
Yeah, they're getting a nice fight down as the dragon is available, but their jungler is not there to take advantage of it, and we're gonna see the engage coming from Wookie in here.
Gonna channel that Hex Flash, gonna use his body to shield his AD carry. 0TG's Polymorph, there's the True Shot Barrage, and the Rel is the sacrificial horse for Syndicate. They'll lose their support as the dragon is available, which means SMU lay claim to this one without any engage threat coming out from Syndicate.
Yeah, and with the Rift Herald going down in the top side, they know they can take this exceedingly safely here. So it will just be a free dragon going over. Once again, just kind of not respecting where the junglers are on the map. Just feels like constantly Syndicate are pushing in these kind of lane matchups where they're not just respecting that they don't have the priority, they don't have the jungle attention they need in order to make these plays happen.
Let me tell you, this is not going to be fun for Slick Drake.
He missed the stun.
There's not too much of a point in shoutcasting. That one is Slick Drake is dead every day of the week. 0TGG is going to get outplayed. The cast coming in from Walk-In on the Gragas did well to trade one back there for SMU. 0TG trying to get 2 on the play, ends up making it a 1-for-1.
That was just so greedy from OTGG. That was just straight up greed. You saw money signs on this Gragas here and did not respect his damage, did not respect his ability to counter any kind of engage you're going for. Gragas is absolutely a champion that can stop rel engage. And that is not a situation you want to dive under tower in. So just kind of really got just too big for her britches there and fell apart under the tower.
Feels sad, man. You're looking for 2 and you end up making it a 1-for-1. Never is a situation that you like to be in. As top laners, Director Camera loves watching these top laners duke it out back and forth, but I'm much more interested in the rest of the map. It is Slick Drake that has picked up his Essence Reaver along with a Serrated Dirk and the Ionian boots for some nice ability haste. Still working the first item for Toxic Vein, looking to be either a Gale Force or a Kraken Slayer. Still will wait to see what the selection is for this 200 years of Phelios. Though 0-0-0 hasn't found too much success so far, and the other win condition on the Olaf is 2-2-2, looking to make himself known on the map. Here comes Wakian, the Ragnarok forced to be used, but you can't get over the wall with the blast cone. No, it's a snipe from Merlin that takes down the life of Zavon 89 once again, and that is the worst time to pop your Ragnarok. Couldn't get to safety with the blast cone into the river.
I mean, it was a lose-lose situation there. You either pop the Ragnarok and get out of the crowd control and can't use the blast cone, or you don't pop it, get CC locked by this Gragas and Scion and die to the Xerath. That was just death waiting to happen there. It was just kind of are we going to use the ultimate or not? I do want to touch on here, as we have the Duskblade Ezreal coming through. That will start to be a slight issue once we hit later on in the game as Engage is coming through.
13 ninjas will burn the flash. That's all they're going to get for it, though. Good crash down. Just going to burn that summoner off of this Lulu.
Yeah, so that is going to... The Ezreal with the Serrated Dirk is going to be a slight issue as it hits the late portions of the game because this Malphite is going to be very, very tanky. Now we have Wakian showing up.
Here we go, 4-man play in the bot lane. Toxic Vein is one shot, and Aphelios has no MR, so that's why he just absolutely blows up like a balloon. The rest of the fight gonna spill out. Pure Soul whiffs the unstoppable force, and now trying to retreat under the turret, but Merlin is showing up with a flash stun, looking to make the play, and Pure Salt dodging has his dancing shoes on, but won't be able to trade it 1-for-1. That's Corando getting very, very low under the turret. A big party in the bot lane ends up being a 3-for-2.
That was a 3-for-4, actually, ultimately. So OTGG, Toxic Vein, Zaven, and Pure Salt fell.
Oh, yeah. The respawn timers are so quick at this point in the game. They weren't even dead at the end of the play, so the fight spilled out for so long. It ends up being a 3-for-4. And Wakian now has that shutdown, back on his head, so SMU have a lot of gold in their pockets, have extended this one to a 68 gold lead. Ewok gonna be caught out here. This is a real feels bad. 13 green ninjas just barely doesn't have the wild growth available. The slows are there, but there's the mount up, and Locket gonna go down. Aphelios doesn't have quite enough damage. There's the wild growth as it comes off cooldown. The shielding isn't up, and they're looking to turn the play around. It's a cask that pushes everyone out of the true shot barrage, but Toxic Vein got thrown back, and
Merlin, look at yourself!
Merlin, pay attention, man! You're getting killed in the mid lane as Corando grabs himself a nice shutdown. As, man, what in the world is going on with Summoner's Rift? It's actually SMU, they're going to posture for this dragon after the nice turnaround. Ewok barely staying alive, and SMU come up big.
Yeah, and that is the power of the Moonstone Renewer. Even though the Wild Growth was not available and the shield can only happen so often, as long as Lulu can poke people, slow them down, and get some of those shields down, there is constant healing going on to this Scion every 2 seconds, and that bought just enough time for the Wild Growth to come off cooldown, which then bought even more time. They walked into the Xerath ultimate and the Ezreal coming through. The burst damage from the Gragas was way too much, and they just popped like balloons trying to overchase onto this tanky Scion. I mean, obviously Merlin kind of kind of made a boo-boo, ulting right next to the Orianna and dying. But other than that, that was very, very well played from SMU to kite that out.
It's like one of those sniper movies where he's looking down his scope, looking for a target 800 meters downrange, and there's just someone standing there behind him. Like
That's just me playing first-person shooters. I don't know what movies you're watching.
Yeah,
but I'd appreciate you not to talk about my stream content like this.
Yeah, it's a little rough there for Merlin. His little tunnel vision on what was going on the other side of the map, but you can't really fault him trying to save his team, especially Ewok, if that one was so low. Toxic Vein, by the way, just exploded in that fight. My eyes are always glued onto the Cephalios, and when you have a champion,
they're not there
like
for long.
Mr. 200 years. Yeah, I mean, they're glued for the time that he's alive, but he just doesn't stay alive for very long. So when you're playing into a full AP Gragas, because Aphelios is the lowest MR of any AD carry in the game, just kinda dies and doesn't do much in the team fight. So really needs to play safe, especially now he's picked up Kraken Slayer instead of the Gale Force. So really needs to show up late to these team fights, eventually build up these chakrams, and then try to look for his impact as Karando. Yeah, you are dead once again. Good night, sweet prince. Wait for the final shot. Nope, it's Wakian that grabs it with the explosive cask. They use 2 global ultis for it, and Karando is dead for the 3rd time.
Yeah, but I mean, this Ezreal ult, not a super long cooldown as long as he's able to hit those Qs. So not the worst thing in the world. The Gragas ultimate already a quarter off cooldown here. That is one of their big disengage options there. But if they are poking down like they are here, this is what the composition wants to do here. You've got the Xerath constantly throwing spells down under the tower. Pure Salt cannot answer with enough pressure on the opposite side of the map. And this is what they can do. They can just constantly siege on you and make you back off of turrets.
This is the composition that they've drafted with themselves, and they're executing on it now very well. It is so much range for SMU that Syndicate can't walk up to their own turrets to defend. Their composition is very all in or all out. The only range that they really have is the Orianna, and maybe Aphelios if he has the right gun combination. But outside of that, you have a Malphite who doesn't do very much. Pure Salt just sitting in top lane during that whole dilemma there in the bot lane. And not really offering too much except for that full all-in potential. And they're going to need to pull it eventually. A minute 30 now on this dragon. A 4 soul point. It would be Mountain Soul to the likes of a Scion. That is a very scary prospect. So I'm wondering whether Syndicate opt to give this one and fight for the soul, or if they draw the line here with their mythics now completed.
Yeah, that is going to be the big question here. Where, as we see, the Orion finally does get that Banshees there. I never got the opportunity to touch on this earlier, but that is an exceedingly good buy if you're ever, like, if you're in an AP versus AP matchup and you are at risk of taking, you know, trade damage like the Orianna, or if it's even just you're trading back and forth. The Verdant Barrier early buy is very, very good and very cost efficient because you're not only getting damage for yourself, you're getting a lot of resistances against your opponent, and it just is very, very strong as an item. So if you are an AP mage player and you go up against a lot of other AP targets, Verdant Barrier is an excellent buy.
Yeah, I mean, it's been one of those items that has sort of been quiet recently, but Verdant Barrier has all of a sudden now Karando is going to be caught out. There's a body slam cast. The one shot is there, and Ewok takes the kill credit. Now in a 4v5 without the Orianna, it's Syndicate that have to find a way to make the team fight happen. There's your unstoppable force onto the back line. It's a double kill for Toxic Vein. Slick Drake trying to find his way out, but it's just not going to happen. He does trade one back. Will finally be shut down. Toxic Vein keeping himself alive, gonna be knocked up for now, but the Attract and Repel on his back, taking a lot of damage. The crash down will be flashed away from by Ewok as he gets himself a sweet double kill in the fight. Flexes himself with an emote. Wonderfully played by SMU. A one shot onto Karando, set that one up. Pure Salt, though, not willing to give this dragon up, knows that the jungler is dead. No
TP
smite
coming.
available. Here comes the TP. The knockup gonna be there. Pure Salt trying to run away, but Corando has Shockwave only onto Ewok. Merlin being run down. He's been taken down by Corando. It's the Scion against 2. Pure Salt's very fast. Corando looking to kite this one out. Has the range advantage, but Ewok, he just won't die. Here comes 13 Green Ninjas and walking back into the fight, which will force Corando and Pure Salt back to their base, as it's SMU now with priority over the Drake once again.
Bring it back around. We're going for another fight here. It is not done. Yeah, they everybody dies and they just decide, no, we're not done yet.
Neither team willing to give up the priority. They're just going right back at it. Corando, half HP.
No
Here
Merlin
we go.
in
The
this fight.
Scion gonna charge forward onto 1. The explosive cast gonna go there, but there's the unstoppable force in the back line. Drake gonna go low. He's been cut down. Chop, chop. They find the Ezreal. The Wild Growth can't save Walking, and finally Syndicate may have found their fight. Ewok does get a big knockup, but it does not matter. Looking to take down Toxic Bane, but he has the onslaught available and will be able to kite himself away. Syndicate, patient with their angle. They find their look and they make the play. They will deny Soul Point to the side of SMU, and they get themselves right back in this game.
SMU forgot what their comp does again. They took fights that they didn't need to take there. I was going to bring up, once that initial round of fighting ended, that despite the gold lead, SMU barely won that fight. And that's because of what we talked about, where they are not the team fight team. Even though they took Corando out in the before anything really happened, there was so much damage and AoE that was coming through. They could just run down this Ezreal, and the only reason they won the fight still was because Merlin was on the other side of the wall and couldn't be taken out. But then they kept fighting long enough for Corando to come back up. The TP came through, the great flash from Pure Salt to hit it on both members. Actually, I don't know. I don't remember if it hit both members, but it got the ball in a good position for Corando, and SMU kept fighting. They kept going on and on, despite the fact that everybody on Syndicate came back up, and then Merlin was still down. They went for a 4v5 team fight when they have a poke composition and not a team fight.
Yeah, Slick Drake got taken out at the very beginning of that fight as well. Hit by the unstoppable force, and Arcane shift out of that one. Will find himself a little bit of safety for now, but getting one shot in the team fight feels so bad for an Ezreal. You're supposed to stay alive. You're supposed to be that constant harassment from a far distance away, and getting one shot always feels so rough. And especially with Merlin dead, you lose all your range advantage, as now Drakes are tied up 2-2. Now the game is far beyond winnable for Syndicate. There's no longer this looming threat of Mountain Soul. Yes, they're 4K behind, but at this point in the game, their team composition is A-okay with being 4K gold behind. It's supposed to be much more than that. And SMU now are in a troublesome spot, just like they were in game number 1, where they're going to have to either force a rough fight or just commit to this side lane split push, just commit to the siege, and never ever even think about contesting an objective.
Now, I want to clarify the point here. They are 4K behind, which they kind of don't ever want to be, but the point is that they are okay being 4K behind if the situation is right. If they're 4K behind and taking objective team fights where they can group up and kind of just run people down, that is absolutely an okay situation. If they're 4K behind and they're stuck under their own tower trying to desperately claw together and siege, that is not a situation where it's okay. But right now, the tempo has fallen off entirely for SMU. They're not able to push these sieges as much as they wanted to, and that is starting to cause an issue with their team composition. Like that whole dragon fight, while it was crazy and all over the place, that is absolutely a situation where Syndicate's composition is able to thrive a lot more than SMU's composition. SMU's composition is all about being tactical and being kind of slow roll, just making sure you are always the one making the decision in these game or throughout this game. that is not what is happening anymore. And they need to slow it down. They need to, force Syndicate to group up and not feel comfortable taking a fight. And I don't know how they're really going to be able to do that with the current game state.
Yeah, that's a real point I was trying to make is come objective time. Yes, while they may have their waves pushed in for now, as long as they have not a treacherous track to the objectives, if all 5 members are at an objective, they just win the fight outright from then on. You have a very tanky frontliner in the name of Rel and Malphite, especially Malphite now having 3 and 1, completing his 3rd item in the Force of Nature, and plus a little Seeker's Arm Guard on top. And then you have all the DPS you can ask for. Ophelio sitting on 3 items for this 5th dragon of the game. That is fantastic for the DPS for Syndicate. As long as he doesn't get one shot by the Gragas, this is going to be an amazing fight for 200 years. Toxic Vayne going to be the player to keep your eyes on as his dragon's up in 20 seconds.
A dragon gonna be coming up soon, but once again, this is like a bad spot for SMU. Like
yeah.
It's good that they're here and kind of poking right now, but if they can't make any sizable advantage, they need to make sure they are not in engage range. They cannot overcommit to this dragon and just take the loss if it hits that point.
Yeah, they need to get an advantage like they just have. That's what you need. OTGG is now so scared to commit to this fight because he's already at half. Needs to find a creative angle.
Good.
He's been chunked out even more. This is the win condition. Look at the abilities coming in from long range. You can see whether it's Merlin, the Mystic shots from Slick Drake, or Walking even throwing down some barrels, putting the pressure. There's the engage from Pure Salt. He's the one to go in first. The Moonlight Vigil comes down on top, and it's a shutdown on the frontliner and Pure Salt. They found the Lulu return. It's 1-for-1, but the Olaf has been taken down. It's a lot of chakrams from Toxic Vayne, but he's playing Dodge Simulator, and he can't dodge them all. That was what SMU needed to do. It's a flash forward at the end of the fight from Slick Drake, and SMU, while they're 5 at an objective, while you doubt them for a minute, it's a huge chunk at the beginning of the fight, and they will take it from there. They get themselves onto Soul Point, finally now at 33 minutes in the game, as they might just march towards the Baron Pit.
That was perfectly played from SMU. They had the constant distance created. They made sure that there was never an opportunity for the Malphite to hit a good ultimate or the Rel to dive in at a good spot. So they never felt like they could never pull the trigger. And by the time they said, oh, crud, we are really low health and we're starting to lose control of this dragon pit, we need to go now, they were already way too low health. The dive came through, it did not hit the people it needed to hit, and Olaf could only go on one person, wasn't able to, they could only target one person at a time, and that meant either Merlin or Slick Drake was going to survive that fight. They weren't able to get either at the end of it, and the fight just kind of turned around after that. They were able to get the Olaf down. Pure Salt did not get done what he needed to get done, and now control is back over to SMU. They have the Baron. This is exactly what you want as a siege composition, and they are all ready to go to try and close out this game in the next couple minutes.
And you have to be so careful at that team fight if you're SMU. You know this is a place where you can win the game, but at the same time, it's a place where you can lose this game. And that's what the story of this one has been. It's a big fight for SMU is now with Baron. Their siege composition is feeling beyond happy. There's the train. It's a face plant into the name of Corando, and that's a lot of damage from the Baron empowered minions. A shield will keep Corando safe for now, but the other end of Summoner's Rift in mid lane going to be a little bit of a cheeky one. Zavon gonna get himself chunked out at the end, but with Baron again, man, SMU are so incredibly obnoxious. Look how far away Syndicate need to be from their base.
Yeah, and what Syndicate need to do right now is they need to be full health and they need to have the flash ult engage from Pure Salt. That is the only opportunity they have, but they can't they can't even heal up. Toxic Vayne just dies. Merlin is just sniping people left and right.
That's the problem. You had to give it respect, and Toxic doing as best as he could to give it but he just dies to the final shot of Merlin, the American sniper on the Xerath ganking people from 5,000 units away. And with the Baron now, Pure Salt's gonna be the last line of defense as he goes forward. The Attract and Repel will find two members, but they're trying to kill Merlin, but the man just won't die. The Mystic Shot's gonna find their marks, and the rest of SMU will follow. It is a double kill on over to Slick Drake, but the Nexus will fall after 36 minutes of a range advantage. SMU are going to force us to a game number 3.
Wonderful, wonderful play from SMU. They faltered in that mid game. They started to take these fights that they didn't need to take. But once they kind of like regrouped, got, said like, hey, guys, remember, we are a poke composition. We want them to kind of, the goal, even if you get into a team fight with that kind of a composition, is to force people to dive so far that they no longer have the damage backup to be able to get the kills on the people they need to get. So you saw in a couple of those fights, especially that last fight, Pure Salt got an ultimate onto Merlin, and you're like, yes, that is exactly what you need to do. But the problem was, there was no other damage to follow up on that, and Merlin could just kite it out constantly. Pure Salt cannot do enough. Meanwhile, you have Wokian and Ewok on that front line who are able to just run people down. You have the Titanic Hydra on Ewok. You have the Night Harvester, the Zonias, and the Lichbane on Joaquin. They're just gonna obliterate that backline, and the damage is not going to be, enough to burn through them before Pure Salt can kill anybody on that backline. So big props for SMU to regroup and recognize what they needed to do and play it perfectly in the end game.
Much better in game number 2. A similar composition for both of the teams, but this time it was SMU that came out on top in the end. In game number 3, we'll see if teams either want to switch up their strategies or give us the salty run back and just see who is the better team, I guess, at the end of the day in our best of 3. But regardless, we'll be right back after a short break as we get ready for our final draft of the evening. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back after our break. Hello everyone and welcome back to Style Esports, our final game of the evening, and it's going the distance. We are in game number 3, getting ready for draft, as you can see on your screen. Syndicate taking on SMU, the Shadow Mustangs Unleashed. much better in game number 2 from SMU. They understood their composition, it feels like to me, a lot more. They executed in their win conditions, getting big chunks before fights even occurred, even taking out the enemy AD carry before that final push. And that's what they're looking for, right? Take an unfair fight because of the benefit that you've drafted yourself. And Syndicate just couldn't deal with it this time around. In game number 2, game 3, they're going back to this Lilia.
Yeah, and I am very glad to see that SMU has changed up their ban and are banning the Seraphine here. So making sure that that does not get through, because that was the crux of their issues in game number 1. They weren't able to play around and avoid these team fights when the Seraphine was in the game. The Lilia coming through, that obviously worked really well for Syndicate in game 1. But now we are seeing the Galio get through the ban phase again. And I want to reiterate, those are the 2 champions Corando plays. Now, last time, Syndicate avoided picking mid lane until the second half of the draft. It meant the Galio got banned in the second ban phase. I don't know if they're going to feel comfortable doing the same thing this time around, because Corando's Orianna did not really accomplish a whole lot in comparison to previous games that we have seen from him.
Yeah, I mean, the Galio to me looked better. I mean, while they performed better in game number 1 just generally, Corando seemed to have a better time in that game, just joining his team earlier on in the fights, though Swain won't be available, so I fully expect that Galio to come through. Yorick, though, has been left up. 1,000 eyes, and that's the champion we were talking about earlier. It's a one trick in the top lane, and Pure Salt will be able to get it this time.
Yeah, and this is that is a bit of a worry here, and there is the Galio coming through as well. So now we are seeing Syndicate on comfort picks here. The bans were not enough to take away from SMU, and Syndicate rightly saying, we got greedy in draft last time and let people ban away our big champs in the second half of the ban phase. We're not giving that away this time. SMU taking the Kai'Sa here instead of the Ezreal that they got from the last game there. I don't know how I feel about it. Okay, so the Kai'Sa has less in terms of poke ability in these siege moments, which it looks like SMU kind of want to go back to this siege comp with the Xerath. But Kai'Sa does bring a bit more DPS in those fights where you're kiting backwards. And that was, something that I think if you do get into those ugly team fights again, can be really useful for you. We're in the second ban phase now, and Malphite getting banned away from Syndicate, and which kind of surprises me, to be honest, but Rel being taken away as well. The Scion now being taken away. So SMU has to pull something different out in that top lane this time.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Syndicate have drafted their entire top side, while SMU have drafted their entire bot side of the map. It is just something to think about where these two teams draw their priority from. SMU, they're going to grab this Scorpion. Captain Flowers is smiling somewhere right now, because in the amateur scene, this champion can be incredibly dangerous. Impale with that extra bit of movement speed you get from that item. It's blanking on the name right now for some reason. The Turbo Chem Tank. Yep, I got it. There we go. Eventually got there for me. Syndicate, though, going to grab the cow in the Alistar to deny a little bit of that engage from the Skarner.
Yeah, and I think that's a smart pickup here. The Rel's gone. Okay, fine. Whatever. But the Alistar is a capable kind of replacement for the Rel, and it also works really well against the Skarner. It's also great because the Alistar does have a little bit of healing built into the kit, so will allow for some of that siege to kind of be countered a little bit better than most other tank supports. The Wukong is not a Wukong. Don't worry, guys. That is a Samira. So, that is an all-in bot lane here on this bottom side, and that can be really, really rough if Lulu and Kaisa do not play that safe in the early game.
Yeah, and while I like the bot lane generally from Syndicate, I think Samira Alistar is a strong duo. Playing it into a Skarner Lulu Kled seems really rough. Samira deals with champions without CC quite well. She dashes around in team fight, she spins, she wins, she does a lot of damage. But SMU have all the lockdown they need to stop the Samira from executing on her win condition. And Samira, if she can't move, isn't a champion that works incredibly well. So going to either need a cleanse or an early QSS if she does want to make a lot of things happen in team fights. I think SMU have the tools. It's just going to come down to execution. I'm really interested in what Syndicate are going to do. They have a very all-in style team composition, but a Yorick doesn't fit that bill quite as well.
Yeah. Okay. So I do want to. I don't know the interaction of this, but Skarner's ult, I know, is like a tiny projectile that shoots towards somebody. So I don't know if the blade whirl is used at the right time, if that can negate Skarner ult. That is entirely off the top of my brain. I'm not positive on that interaction. We'll have to see. But that is something to keep in mind as a possible interaction. I think if that is not the case, that is a really, really tough matchup then for Samira, because she is not going to want to dive in on a Skarner, and picking into that is a little questionable here. But looking at that top side, Ewok on the Kled, that is probably one of the best backup champions for the Gragas for his champion pool. And you want something that is capable of at least handling itself against this Yorick that is Pure Salt's main like one-trick champion. So that is a comfort pick. That makes sense. It works really well with the Skarner, and it is gonna be. The one thing I don't like about it though is that you are looking. The rest of the team does not want to run at you. You know, like Kaisa kind of does. But Xerath does not. Lulu is not a I want to run at you champion. This could backfire if SMU kind of don't pay attention to the game state. If they get fed and run at people, that's fine. If they are behind and they are using the Kled's going to like push R, just go, just super deep. That can backfire very easily when you're running into a Lilia and an Alistar and a Galio.
Yeah, right. And Alistar can find a huge engage angle if the movement speed gets a little too crazy, right? I mean, that's sort of awkward to think about, but Ewok, if he gets his AD carry in a bad spot because Slick Drake's moving too fast and he can't control where he's skating, then Slick Drake could be caught out by the engage. Same thing with Merlin, right? If you step up a little too far forward, he's like, okay, my Kled's going forward, Walk-in's going in there as well. So let's just, get a little cheeky here. Let's step up further than you normally would. You still have to be very, very wary of the Samira Alistar threat. They can just sort of all in you at a moment's notice. And as soon as Samira, bang, hits that S rank, the Inferno trigger is going to be pulled, and huge amounts of DPS are going to be thrown down. So they need to keep an eye on Toxic Vein this game as well. And it seems like Syndicate like to play around their AD carry. Putting him on Aphelios in game 2 is a big indicator of that. And Samira in game 3 is no different. The champion really needs to snowball the game. Playing from behind on Samira feels just about impossible. But with a Galio on your squad, can always look to make those knock-up plays in bot lane happen and get Toxic Vein the gold he needs.
Yeah, it is not a... It is going to be very hard for Merlin to make this work correctly, because there is so many scary things. It's not just the Samira Alistar, it's the Lilia. Running into a swirl seed is very possible when you're running that fast. The Yorick with the walls can catch Xerath out, and Xerath has no opportunity to get out of that. None of these champions have any ability to get out of that. None of them have any kind of dash to avoid walls or anything like that. They just have some movement speed increases. So it is very, very easy for SMU's comp to kind of get into the wrong spot. That said, like, Syndicate's composition
it does lack a bit of DPS if Samira or Yorick do not get off the ground early. Those are kind of like the two main damage threats on this team. Corando will do a little bit of damage in that kind of mid-game area, but Samira and Yorick are going to be kind of the keys with the Lilia as the backup. And if they don't get off the ground, they're not tanky enough to kind of like survive these long team fights, and they're not damagey enough to be able to, blow up a Kaisa quick enough.
Yeah, and it's going to be an interesting one. I think there's a lot of tools and moving pieces for these two squads to work their way into and sort of put this puzzle together. But in game 3 is when teams can shine and become the greater of the two. We will see, though, whether it is Syndicate or SMU at the end of the night here at Style Esports. We'll be right back as Speculator counts down. Don't go anywhere. Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to Style Esports. We are out of our gates now in game number 3 between Shadow Mustangs Unleashed and Syndicate. I'm expecting a fun and interesting game 3, but we certainly have a lot of things to talk about and a lot to break down as we get into game 3. Pure Salt at the very top, we can just go top to bottom, is a Yorick one-trick. This man knows how to play his champion and knows how to play him very well. So I expect that to be a point of pressure for this squad. I think sending Galio bot lane is always an option. But if they just want to commit to the split push through Pure Salt and get that 4-1 going, if Yorick gets super far ahead, there's not really anyone that can match this Yorick in the side lane.
Yeah, and that's going to be the real scary thing there. You got to watch that early game there. OTGG taking some damage, not going to have enough time to back here. So a bit unfortunate there. But yeah, if no one is able to answer this Yorick, I don't know what you kind of do. Like, it's very easy if Yorick gets an early lead to just run away with this game. And it's going to be up to Ewok to, at the very least, neutralize the power that this Yorick can have.
Yeah, and I feel as if Ewok is... I mean, he's on a champion that he plays. I mean, Kled is certainly under his belt, but Yorick is not an easy champion to do your research on. It's not played all too often. So knowing exactly what he does and where his trade patterns go every single time is kind of difficult as OTGG. Going to lose about half the HP bar there in the bot lane. Moving right on down, though, to this jungle position. Skarner has been increasingly meta, grabbing that Impale, hitting level 6, using the Turbo Chem Tank, then snagging a priority target like a Samira or like a Lilia, and instantly deleting them in a team fight can be so impactful that Walk-In will be piloting that champion this time around. And both these junglers really looking to hit 6 before they start looking on the map.
Yeah, they are really like Skarner is very scary. He did get nerfed in the most recent patch, I believe. It is a rough time right now if you are going up against the Skarner. And with that phase rush, you grab somebody, you EQR, grab somebody, boom, they are just going to get flown back into your team, and it is basically a free kill every single time. So we see OTGG not respecting this level 1 here, really putting Samira in a bind here. Level 1 is an Alistar. Your goal is to just not take damage. Like, if you are taking too much damage level 1, you are nullifying any level 2 engage opportunity. That, I think, is really, really poor decision making. Like, you need to be able to engage level 2 if you're Alistar, and throwing that away by taking a lot of damage level 1 is really unfortunate.
Yeah, Alistar is one of those support champions. It's a level 2 ride or die, and here you go. The level 3 is in. The flash away, the flash fall, the auto will come through, and that's what you're talking about. The damage. OTGG may pay for his life, but no, the dash resets are in, and Toxic Vayne is going to get himself his first kill. It is 2-0 in the bot lane, and Syndicate find themselves an early advantage there. Ewok going to have the remount available soon. There comes Skarl back. Won't find too much with it. Just a little bit of damage on the enemy junglers. But just as you were speaking about it, Thousand Eyes, they make it happen with the Alistar.
Yeah, so that was... I did not think they had enough damage to actually make that work at least into a kill. I thought at the best they'd be getting, like, you know, some summoners and some health advantage. Really good play and follow-up from Toxic Vayne there. Toxic Vayne actually has the exhaust. I actually just realized that was the exhaust from Toxic Vayne. So really looking to be aggro this game, and yeah, a little bit too disrespectful for the Flash Alistar engage, as Merlin now TPing into Pain.
Yeah, loses half his HP, but we're looking to make this trade better on the back end. That is the good thing about playing into a Galio, is he's got one combo, and then after that it's a little bit rough. There's another Hex Flash play, as OTGG will knock up Slick Drake, chunk him about to half HP as well. And the Alistar Samira lane is off to a good start. Toxic Vayne already has the Vamp Scepter, which provides everything you need in order to stay in this lane past the double ranged matchup that 13 Green Ninjas has been abusing these last 2 games. So it feels really nice for Toxic Vayne, to be able to pick that one up, and an 800 gold lead to show for it. The only other thing that I really wanted to talk about was this bot lane, and we've extended that conversation because of those early plays. The exhaust is in for Toxic Vayne. Really needs a QSS though. Come mid game. Into Skarner. That's going to feel a little bit rough. Here's the watch down. Jeez. Crash down Eve. Man, it's a lot of damage, as Merlin has to base immediately after that gank.
Yeah, and it's just so tough now in this bottom lane for 13 Green Ninjas and Slick Drake now. Like, as Lulu, when you're behind, when you and your AD carry are behind in lane, you can't walk up. you just get engaged on and die every single time from here on out. Now that you have fallen behind in the early game, the goal now is just survive, try not to take too much damage, and, you know, avoid getting engaged on. I'm still kind of curious whether or not Samira is going to be able to negate this ult with a well-timed W.
Yeah.
You know, like I said in the champ select there, Skarner ult is technically a small, like almost invisible projectile that goes from the Stinger to the person. I know this because I played Skarner when I first started playing the game, and they changed how it worked after his, like, or before his rework, when this ult was like really frustrating and you would flash out of it and it would pull you back in. It's a tiny projectile that shoots from the Stinger to the person. I am not positive whether or not, like, that can be timed and avoided with the Blade Whirl, or if it kind of is just, like, small enough that it just gets ignored by that. But we will see, I think, once we get into the mid-game here.
And while it may be the case that Samira can do it, it's so difficult. like it's one of those things that as a Samira player, yes, even if you know, there's a very good chance that Toxic doesn't even know about that interaction, and even
It's
if
also really hard to
Chimera
time.
yeah, exactly. That's what I was about to mention. Is that even if Toxic Vayne knows that he can, it's still so hard to do that it might just be irrelevant. So may just opt for the QSS regardless, which is, as a gold 80 carry player myself, I would probably do anyway. So Syndicate, we'll see if that does come through. The rest of the game, though, has been at a lull state for both of these squads. Everyone keeping up just fine. Merlin, because of that base, has lost quite a lot of the CS here in mid, will be passed off a blue buff. Walk-in does not really need that one on the Skarner. And a 10 CS gold lead, 10 CS lead, excuse me, for Slick Drake.
Goodbye.
There's the Impale for the first time. And Polymorph, man, Toxic Vayne just can't play the game. 13 Green Ninjas got himself a kill, but a double kill on over to the Galio. Why not, man? Give him the triple. No. Bad man Zavon will take it away. 5-1 of the scoreboard for Syndicate as they have found themselves a good presence in the bot lane. It was the first Impale of the game, and it did not go well at all for SMU.
Yeah, and it was just too early on the Blade Whirl there, and Wokian kind of just sitting there and letting the Blade Whirl end out just to make sure that did not get blocked out. So smart move on his part, and then you get the engage. Immediately after it's over, you got the polymorph too. So just Toxic Vayne just did not do anything in that fight and immediately went down. However, Corando coming in, getting a bunch of damage through. The Verdant Barrier has already been picked up, and now, like, Galio is just really okay in this matchup. Merlin, in the early game, has such an advantage in this, but because of the TP play and because of some of the other things that happened in that lane, the range advantage meant nothing. Galio usually hates those kinds of matchups. Now with the Verdant Barrier and the Merc Treads, that is so hard to push Galio out of lane, and there's so much engage potential that can come through, especially when you have the Lilia. Lilia loves that setup, and when it's against a squishy target, she loves it even more. So this is a really good place for SMU to be in both their bot and their middle lanes.
Yeah, I always wonder how Galio appears so strong, and it's because of his kit, right? I mean, Corando is struggling a little bit, but then the gank came through from Zavon, forced Merlin's flash to miss a wave and a half of CS, and then the TP play with the Corando there as well, and then the ultimate bot lane is just so impactful from Corando in mid, and this is a champion that he loves to play. They didn't give it to him in game 2, and he struggled because of it, but in game 3, back on one of the comfort champions now for Syndicate's mid laner, and they're showing exactly why this champion should be banned away every time from this team. Syndicate looks so strong with it, and they're certainly putting it to good effect. Is Ewok going to take a little bit of a trade in topside, will dismount as he shoots the little bug, but a lane gank actually from Walk-In. The wave not
As Impale up.
For it.
Yeah, does not want to go for that with Kled demounted there. Has the TP though. They do know Lilia is there, but it's just going to be the reset. And yeah, York's going to just push with this abomination of a cat. Oh no, they're going for it.
Oh yeah. TP's going to come through. Pure Salt at about half HP, going to be pulled. Where's the Impale? It's not been used just quite yet. Pure Salt going low. The knockup is there with the grand entrance. The Winds of War, they are blown, but the Justice Punch won't connect. He's burning. Ticking down to the DOT from Ilia, and Corando is on a killing spree in the Galio. Merlin has finally shown up, but to what avail? He just has to flash away from some sort of threat that Syndicate have stuck under his turret, but he might just be dove. Here comes the cow, ring the bell, watch out, even Merlin is dead. Once again for the night of SMU, they just can't get away. And what can they do when everyone is moving quicker from the side of Syndicate?
Yeah, they're not timing this Galio ultimate. They're not prepared for Corando to show up in these lanes. It was a greedy gank there. Not only was Galio ult prepared, but they just saw Lilia clearing that ward. and they still went for that gank anyway. They thought they were going to kill the York sooner. The impale didn't even come out because it seemed like York was getting low enough that they'd be able to pull off that gank. And unfortunately, they just waited too long to get that kill, and it turned into a disaster after everything was blown into this York and there was nothing left in the tank.
Yeah, just nothing left for him. Chem tank now available, so better for the Skarner to be able to make those aggressive plays, but it's all about those first ultimate usage, right? On a champion like Skarner, if you don't get that first good play and you're not playing Skarner from a position of power, it feels like you have such a hard time reaching those priority targets and making those aggressive plays happen. And peeling with Skarner just feels so bad that Walk-In is going to have a rough time come this mid-game. 13 minutes now on the clock here for these two teams. Rift Herald will be popped in the top lane. Just as plates are about to fall, 30 seconds left on it. They should be able to grab the first short of the game, but here comes Walk-In, the flash forward with an Nimbus Cloak, but he's stuck in the cage. Zavon, man, he flashes away anyway. He was scared of the Scorpion, and the tower lives with, let me see, confirm on the HP, 85.
Yeah, it's a very healthy tower if I've ever seen one.
A stiff breeze would blow that one away.
Yeah. Unfortunate with Walk-In getting the flash into the York wall there and not able to make anything happen. And it just kind of seems like just bad move after bad move coming through for Syndicate here. Pure Salt, every time we go up there, that maiden of the cats is just available and up. And that is so hard to play against if you're Ewok. That is why this tower has gotten so low and the other tower is just free. So now Pure Salt will take that first tower and get a good chunk of gold in his pocket.
Yeah, it's a sizable CS lead for Slick Drake in the bot lane. But at the other end of the map, it's just too much gold for Pure Salt for that to really matter. That entire turret going down means so much extra gold in the hands of this Yorick, and he knows how to play his champion. It's not like a Yorick player that you see in solo queue that's just like running around the map, throwing graves everywhere and bonking people with a shovel. Pure Salt can execute on this champion, and I'm curious whether it's going to be that split push angle as he's still sitting here in top lane. And this is really, really hard to deal with if you are Ewok. There's no Hydra for this Kled, so can't really wave clear. And because of that, Ewok's going to have to respond top lane. Has no TP for the Dragon, and that will be second Drake of the game for Syndicate. And the soul we will get for our final game is an Ocean Soul.
Yeah, and that is definitely a favorable soul for SMU. Gives them that in-fight survivability. With Corando and OTGG kind of in that front line, constantly wanting to stick up there and do some damage. Saven with the ticking damage loves that as well, and the survivability for both the Samira and the Yorick. Just completely love that soul. They have the advantage. They have the more of the opportunity to get that Dragon Soul right now. So that is in the forefront of their mind right now. And I don't see, unless there is some kind of mistake coming through, a world in which they are not able to get a hold of that soul.
Yeah, and with now all of this to their name, it's going to be a fight going down in the top lane. Pure Salt going to be stunned, and he's going to flash away for this one. And the snipe once again, man, that just feels so bad. Justice Punch going to lock up Walk-In. He just can't get away. The mastery is being flung. Oh, this just feels so rough for SMU. They don't have a way back in. You can see they're trying to force plays. They're trying to pull the trigger at every chance they can get, but Syndicate always have Corando there. 4-0-4 now on the Galio on this power pick with a 5k goal lead at 17 minutes. This one is starting to get out of hand for SMU.
Yeah, and every time they go for this top lane gank, it's just the Galio ult is always ready. Corando is always there and prepared for this fight. It's so tough because they're trying to kill Pure Soul, who is not the least tanky champion, and they're just kind of taking way too long. So I'm kind of confused as to why they keep going up for this top lane gank when it's just clearly not working. And now Slick Drake.
Knocked up with a pulverize, flash away, and here we go. OTGG now has to get out of the turret range, charging forward as Ewok. Exhaust is on to Slick Drake, but OTG is going to lose his life all the same. Gled going to charge forward with that ultimate. Toxic Vein spinning, but it doesn't have enough damage. Double kill on over to the SMU mid laner. You can see Merlin throwing the ultimate now just to clear the wave. Yes, they get a double kill in the bot lane. Yes, Slick Drake gets a little bit of gold infused into his pocket, but at what cost? You have lost your mid lane turret. Top lane is still being shoved in. TP expended from Merlin. It just feels like this Yorick can't be matched, and Syndicate are using it to the fullest extent possible.
Yeah, Yorick can't be matched, and Corando just not able to be stopped when this ultimate is available. They were smart and took the fight before the Galio ult was back up. So good on that move, but yeah, they've fallen so far behind that the Yorick is a problem now, and the only answer they could ever have to it would be Kled, and he cannot do it right now. He is just not capable of matching this Kled. Matching this Yorick. So it is such a rough spot to be in for Syndicate now. The best they could do is getting that Kai'Sa on the board. It's just they're going to be trading evenly for a while, and that's going to be the best they can do.
Yeah, and now Toxic Vein has the QSS available as well. So with this dragon up in a minute, that Skarner Impale onto Samira isn't an easy engage angle. You need to blow the QSS before you can commit to the all-in onto the bot laner in Toxic Vein. So really, really troublesome spots. Even the Zanya is completed by Zavon as well to avoid the initial engage, and you can't really grab anyone else. No one else in this team can just immediately be suppressed into death. So really, I'm curious how Walk-In will play this next fight out, if they even do want to contest Soul Point in 40 seconds.
Yeah, and it's already Soul Point coming up in that 20-minute range here. This is such a scary spot to be in because it is a it's not Soul Point coming up in 30 seconds. My apologies. It's still such a scary point to be in because you are giving that third dragon away at 20 minutes, and there doesn't seem to be a way to contest it at all. Like, if SMU want it, they're going to get it.
Oh, this is rough. Merlin, you can't stand there. The Ignite will tick down, and they found a pick right before the third dragon for Syndicate. And that is just too rough for SMU, trying to face check into a jungle that no longer belongs to them, and Merlin will pay the ultimate price. You can see how annoying this Yorick is now. All these little cats being thrown at Ewok. He's swatting them off like flies. Finally, maybe they can make the play here. Yorick gonna be suppressed, but look at the damage. He just doesn't take any. Ewok has gone dismounted. Maybe they can find the return play, but no. Ewok shuts down this Yorick and will get the second kill of the game. They make the play. It's a good trade, to be fair. I thought maybe that Syndicate were going to go away with robbery there, but SMU, good return play, but it's Slick Drake with no cleanse. The ultimate going to be used to reposition, but it's right into the waiting arms of the cow.
Hold on.
That's a big lot of damage with a Cathian Rain, and collecting is Slick Drake on the head of OTGG. All of a sudden, SMU find themselves a couple of quick kills.
Yeah, and the part of that happening was due to the fact that the map was just so spread apart. The top lane there you saw, it was just completely up near that middle section of the top lane. The mid lane was pushed up on that second tier tower. There was not enough room for Corando to be able to get up there and protect the Yorick, which is how the Yorick stayed alive in every single one of those ganks. So Corando being so far forward and Pure Salt being so far back worked against them. That map being open hurt them, and they were able to take advantage of that, Syndicate was, and got a kill out of it. And then they tried to make something happen and said, like, okay, well, if you're going to commit stuff to that top side, we'll just go in on this mid lane. But they didn't have the damage, and they got a little too close to the tower. OTGG went super hard in, and the protection from this Lulu was enough to allow Slick Drake to turn it around.
And Slick Drake, without the cleanse, managed to turn that one around. The tower shot helps certainly, but regardless, SMU have now found a lot of gold onto this Kaisa, sitting at 2 completed items and that recurve bow to boot. So all of a sudden, this game has gotten a little bit interesting. 3 minutes on Soul has to be a fight that SMU takes. There's no way they can concede an Ocean Soul and still stay relevant in this game.
Yeah, so now Ocean Dragon gonna be the big question mark here. Slowly Syndicate are making their voices heard in this game, but it almost feels like it's too little too late here. Ewok, while getting the kill on the Yorick, it required a lot of help, so I don't think it's gonna happen if there is no walking in on that top side. And Merlin just has been a non-factor in this game. It has been super unfortunate. Just the constant dives, the constant pressure from Corando has meant that Merlin could not take advantage of that early game. And we are really, really going to have to see something crazy come out from Syndicate to turn things around.
Yeah, and Syndicate now, with this objective at the helm in 2 minutes, are in a position of power, but only to the point where SMU let them get first rotation. They now have a sizable gold lead to their name at about 4K. But SMU have this teamfight composition built for themselves. I've still yet to see Pure Salt move out of this top lane the entire game.
For a bit.
Yeah, I mean, okay, hyperbole, sure. But in the grand scheme of things, if this had a heat map, top lane would be on fire, and then it'd be like a lukewarm spot in mid lane.
It's just, you're wrong because it doesn't fit the narrative I want to talk about. Shut up.
I mean, you're right, technically, but Pure Salt... Okay, he's in his jungle. This is a move, right?
Yeah, this is currently not the top lane.
Yeah, I don't expect Pure Salt to really ever show up unless they do want to take the full-on 5v5 for this dragon.
At this point, they're strong enough to. Like,
yeah, he's gonna base. Okay, so this is an angle where Pure Salt will move out of the top lane. They're not going to give this dragon. They will contest it. I'm curious whether he's gonna get anything important. No, just a chain vest and a couple more ruby crystals. So this is all the items we're gonna see for this soul fight, which probably is game deciding one way or another because Baron is on the table after it.
yeah, and with SMU getting priority on it, getting that scuttle crab is very big for them. I'm kind of surprised to see that Pure Salt is moving there directly. I feel like he could go up and pressure that top side with the TP. Because Ewok one-on-one cannot answer the Yorick at this point, and you don't need to be here immediately. You can just keep pressuring and kind of play this dance all around it. It's a lose-lose situation where Syndicate have to answer this, but they also can't let the Yorick constantly push. So if they just play this dance game like over and over, even if they would end up somehow losing the soul, oh no.
Okay, that's headbutt pulverized, but it doesn't find the right target. Gets a cleanse away, but the team fight gonna break out, and Merlin is dead along with the support, and Syndicate are gonna clean house with this fight. Walkian is on the run. The twirl seed will not connect onto the backside, but a swift, decisive move by the hands of OT, GG, and Corando. Everyone flashing forward to pull the trigger for SMU. Ewok now in the side lane, just trying to get away. Not sure he has much further to run. Has to flash out of the cage just to get some distance. But he doesn't have long for the world. Gore Drinker sure is available. The remount gonna come through. And they might just let him live. Sure, it's a consolation prize. But Ocean Soul now finally picked up by Syndicate. That is massive in terms of tilting the scales for this team.
Yeah, and just Corando coming just full speed into the enemy team there was just... It's so hard to deal with this Galio right now. He's so tanky, but it does so much damage. And he just ran into the backline, popped that Hextech rocket belt, got onto Merlin, and immediately just Merlin could not do anything. They could not play that siege game. 13 green ninjas fell almost immediately afterwards, and from that point on, it was just a wipe.
And let me puzzle you this, my good friend. How are you ever supposed to kill a Yorick with an ocean soul? You don't.
I mean,
It was a trick question. I gotcha.
the only real kind of answer you can have there is getting grievous wounds and just 5-manning them when they're not ready for it. But you run the risk of losing so much on the map if you ever try and do that. It is this is such a hard situation to be in for Syndicate.
Not a lot of room to wiggle at all. You can see the vision line still in their jungle, still maintaining control of their jungle camps. But outside of that, not much belongs to them, except for this mid lane priority for now. Walk-in gonna go forward. Remember, there's a QSS on this member. Toxic Vein stays alive, and the Lilting Lullaby gonna go down. It only finds one. Twirl Seed will connect. Slick Drake will be just fine to get away from this one. No cleanse available. But just fine, yeah. And there's no one to match this split push. It is a tier 2 pushing for tier 3 as the rest of SMU run for the hills, desperately trying to get back to their base as it's being decimated by Syndicate's top laner. In comes Walk-in with the smite. Doesn't have the impale just quite available. And look at the damage. The wild growth has to be used. The TP is committed by Corando. This is going to be turned around so swiftly. Merlin has lost his life. Corando hopping forward with the Justice Punch, and just like that, an inhibitor is taken down. The base now of SMU is in shambles, and this could be your game-ending push for Syndicate with a swift, decisive move into the mid lane. They will back away for their second inhibitor. For now, do they want to push forward? Are they looking for more? Yes, the headbutt pulverized in onto Dark Green Ninjas. He's taken down, no ability to get out of the fight and walk in. He's a scorpion. What can you ask him to do? There's your hero's entrance onto the back line. Ewok is low, but Walk-in is in too much trouble to get away. The taunt is there and the Inferno trigger just to put the final bits of damage in. Ewok, yes, he's defending the Nexus as best as he can, but they're just padding the stats. And could you believe it? It was Pure Salt on the split push that ended up making the difference. Syndicate take it 2-1.
Yeah, the 2 picks that we had seen kind of be huge like issues in the draft phase was that Yorick that was banned the first 2 games, and that Galio, which we had already seen come through and be a problem, got banned away game 2, which is how Syndicate were able to win. They let it through in game 3, and it just bit them so hard. Pure Salt just completely controlling that top side. Even when people were showing up trying to ruin his day, Corando was always there to turn things around, and every single fight, Corando is just diving back into this backline with the rocket belt, getting a massive taunt onto the backline, and just demolishing people.
And it feels like SMU just couldn't respect the tools that Syndicate had at the end of the day. Whether it's the Galio ulti to reinforce the team, a QSS in the mid lane that saved Toxic Vein's life, they're not checking the resources of what the enemy has available to them, and because of it, they get punished. At the end of the day, though, Syndicate taking a nice 2-1 victory over SMU, not letting this little reverse sweep happen in the best of 3 series. So well done, Syndicate, indeed. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Thank you, Thousand Eyes, for joining me on the desk tonight, and for everyone who's watching, I hope you all have a phenomenal rest of your evening. From everyone here at Style Esports, thank you all. Make sure to stick around to Style. We always have action coming at you throughout the week. And many casters indeed to bring you that action. From us, though, a good night to everyone. Stay safe, stay healthy. See you all later.